Hello and welcome to Las Vegas Summer League Review number 3. Um, we have a really interesting mix of guys. We have lottery picks. We have players who score like lottery picks. We have 4 different talks of Summer League, and I'm really excited to get into it. I am joined today by a great group who you can see right now. Everybody, how are you doing? Introduce yourself. We have Aneesh Namburi, who is out for a small moment, and we'll run right back. But guys, how's the night?
Night is going pretty well. I'm Lucas, and I'm going to be breaking down Cam Thomas, a guy that gave Nets Twitter and Hooper Twitter in general a ton of joy during Summer League. So I have nothing to complain about.
Yeah, I can't complain, man. It's been a good day. Good quiet evening in Ohio so far. Pretty psyched to break down Chris Duarte's film. He was not pretty much. I mean, he was definitely enjoying Summer League, especially for Pacers fans, just gauging temperature there. Obviously, I'm Mark. I don't know why I said obviously. That sounded so rude, but you get my point, man.
You guys, you hear the Hollywood, right? Like, it's not just me.
Definitely Hollywood.
Hollywood.
And I'm psyched to be on.
Yeah, so for me, I'm actually a new face. If you've seen the NBA Underground on Twitter, that's me. If you've read something about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, that was probably me. And I'm here to talk about one of the most exciting prospects in this draft, Jalen Green, who had a fantastic summer league.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much. And Aneesh will be on momentarily. As we get going, let's talk about the areas of attention for Cam Thomas. I would say one of my favorite prospects to watch, like the last 3 years, from when I saw him in EYBL, because you get the Cam Thomas experience every single night out, and it is very much an experience. So, what was it that you were looking for seeing Cam in this setting?
Well, I think something to keep in mind in Summer League, and I've seen people tweet this out, is that individual isolation scores for those that is their, I guess, dominant skill trait, that tends to really pop in Summer League because of the lack of defensive familiarity and attentiveness to schemes. So I expected him to, one way or another, make a lot of noise, and that he did. The areas of attention, I wanted to see how far he could push his dribble into the paint. Definitely mixed results there. I wanted to see him hunting catch and shoot opportunities, because if he's going to have a role with the Brooklyn Nets this season and in the near future, I think that's going to be pretty big for him, as well as his just first step explosiveness versus a new level of competition, the off-ball defensive attentiveness, and really just the general attention to detail on that side of the ball in general. I think that, along with the catch and shoot game, is going to be what determines how much he can play in the early going in Brooklyn. And to put it, no better way to put it, tunnel vision. He can definitely make reads when they're in front of him, but I wanted to see if he could, sort of avert course and make a pass off of a drive, just looking at things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're going to be talking about like what else Cam Thomas can do quite a bit. It's also really important that there's not a lot of people who can do what Cam Thomas does. Having an NBA skill like day one is important, and Cam Thomas goes beyond that, which is really interesting to have a guy who's like, no, he's going to do a thing like NBA well day one. I'm sure the phrase shot selection will come up a couple of times, and we'll talk about my troubled relationship to that term, along with exactly what it means to be a bucket getter. Man, this is going to be fascinating. I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. Yeah, let's dive into Cam.
Well, this play, I think, highlights his, I guess, most well-rounded or most effective part of his bucket getting, and that's the space creation to the side or back. But if you could pause it before the next clip plays. One thing that I sometimes worry about with him is that his side steps and his step backs just seem so explosive, and they put a certain level of strain on his legs that I occasionally worry about how that's going to translate into the jump shot. I don't worry about him separating from the defender, but I worry about, him combining, I guess, the fluidity of the move and the shot, if that makes sense. And on this one, it falls short because it doesn't seem like his power. It doesn't seem like he has a lot of power coming from his base.
It actually reminds me of like when you see people who are really bad at boxing and they throw like one really hard punch, and then their second, like the next punch they throw is like just terrible because they just don't have the ability to control. Like sometimes Cam gets so much explosion that's like, I can't, he doesn't have the ability to self-organize afterwards, which is, I mean, a luxury problem to have, but it's certainly something that is noticeable when he misses shots that like he normally knocks down for the level of shooter he is.
And it definitely feels like versus a new level of comp, he could overcompensate, on trying to get that space. But this next play is, nothing but positive. It's really impressive the way he can get to the line because he's not physically dominating guys, bulldozing through people. They have no choice to hack him. He gets by on the initial step and then senses, where the defender's going and leans back in. And that is just something you can't teach, to put it in a cliche.
Yeah, and he had a 50% foul rate in summer league. It's not that that's really an aberration considering they had a 44% foul rate in LSU.
Exactly. This goes back to the off-ball attentiveness. I feel like if he's on the court for the Brooklyn Nets in the regular season, teams are just going to try to run him around screens, see if he has the consistent ability to stick to his man, and right there, he doesn't. He just gets caught, and it's an open three.
So what do you make of the idea that like guys who have negative tools? I mean, like Cam's not a like particularly untoolsy guy, but just for his role, he's always going to be guarding sort of like the worst offensive player on the court. So for guys who aren't like ultra toolsy, like what do you make of his ability to eventually fulfill that assignment? Is it a matter of, do you think that he could eventually be like mediocre on defense? Like what level of okay does he have to be to merit like playing like closing minutes or playing more with the stars?
Well, first, I think it's interesting how we as fans and analysts treat guys whose best skill trait is scoring versus developing the other tools. Mm-hmm. Whereas if a guy is a great defender, we say, oh, give him time with the shot, maybe he can become a better passer, this and that. To me, it seems like we're more negative on guys like Cam Thomas that need to develop that part of his game. But he does have the foot speed. There were a few reps in Las Vegas Summer League where he kept up with ball handlers pretty well. And when he takes a matchup personally, he's determined, at least to me, it looks like, to go over screens to get in the guy's jersey. Based off the little that I know about him, I feel like his eventual defensive ceiling could be a guy that is more suited to guard ball handler types and generally keep them in front. Whereas if you think you want to put him on, the worst offensive player, but that's a shooter, let's say he's playing against the Nets and you have no choice but to put him on Joe Harris, that to me seems like a long way away, where he has the ability to string together 15 straight seconds of chasing Joe around screens and avoiding, an elevator screen, this and that. But to me, it looks like he's a little bit a ways away.
So to the gallery, I'd ask, like, what has the modern NBA done with this archetype defensively? Is it the idea of you want them to chase over screens? Do you want them to go under them? Do you want them to be high pressure and push towards a situation? Like, when you have a young scorer whose usage is going to drop relative to where it's been, what has the NBA's answers been? And like, what do you guys think the best optimization schematically is for a guy like Cam?
I feel like a lot of what we've seen, and this is just my read, but at least the last 2 or 3 years, it's been a lot of just switching everything. Like, especially looking at Houston recently, I'm trying to pull up other ideas off the top of my head, but like, I feel like a lot of times it's just, okay, we'll resort to switching, have a lot of like size wings out on the court. and see how it goes, because that way you're taking away a lot of, okay, well, if there is a screen popping up, all you have to do is communicate it, and not worry about it. Like what Brooklyn has done a lot of this last year, and they do it well. I mean, you erase some of the having to put so much effort in fighting over screens by just switching everything, even if it's not always perfect, given the scenario.
Noah, thoughts?
I think at least maybe this is just something that I've noticed, but like instead of how tall a guy is, like how strong a guy is will kind of help determine which positions they can guard. Because, you know, as Mark said, switching is a big thing. I think, you know, just being able to hold your own against most, maybe like 1, 2s, and 3s strength wise could perhaps make up for, you know, other negative tools that he would have.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense to me. I mean, it's also the like, and I think in many other team contexts, it'd be a little bit easier to hide him. But also, like whenever you're with stars, like they're just going to be like, yeah, I have to carry a 35 usage. I get to choose who I guard, and sometimes that's gonna be like, yeah, I want to guard PJ Tucker. Like you got to go figure something else out, Rook. I'm excited to see how that element plays out. All right, let's jump back in.
Let's see. Oh, this measuring his first step explosiveness as well as a bit of tunnel vision. I mean, you can just see when he catches the ball what a nightmare it is for defenders to stay in front of him. He shifts the defender with that through the legs, but as he gets by him, you can see the corner riser pop up for an open 3. And these are the types of shots that I don't know how long his leash is going to be if he's taking that versus kicking it to the corner. Something I've seen on drives is that once he makes up his mind, I'm going to score the ball, there's not a lot that will prevent him from doing that. You know, if there's a read out of the corner of his eye, that's definitely an area of growth for him to, as I said before, change course and, you know, make his second option, which almost is always passing.
Yeah. That's I'm less concerned about that on the team where, like, if that's a random NBA player, just like, you know, any guy, I think that like Cam may not pass them the ball. But if that's like James Harden, I think that political like reality of being like, hey,
okay,
that guy is asking for the ball. No, like, you know, if that's Kevin Durant, it's like Kevin Durant would like the ball, please, and he's wide open. It's like, yeah, I'd like to put 3 points on the board. We're good. I think that's also like a thing with this specific archetype where, you know, guys have been the best scorer on, you know, on their team and been the best option, and now he's going to a place where that may not be true. I mean, we saw something very similar to this with Michael Porter Jr., who, you know, went to a place where he was not unquestionably the best player as a rookie or unquestionably the best scorer, and it resulted in a place where he could do what he wanted to, but he also had to, you know, downshift his role, I would say, fairly seamlessly. And I think that there's certainly a similarity there for the situation that Cam Thomas is going into.
I am very interested to see in preseason the lineups that he plays with. And normally I, you know, avoid preseason basketball for a variety of reasons. Yeah. There are no shortage of reasons to avoid that. But if he's out there with James Harden, Joe Harris bench lineups, which I think could be the end result, I'm interested to see how, again, your favorite word, how his shot selection changes and just his, I guess, eagerness to hit the corners, to, you know, kick it back out, things like that. Summer League was not made to show off his passing ability.
He did have a 15% assist rate, though. It was not the worst of the guys the Nets drafted.
No, it was not. That is not his best play, though. That is what I don't think we'll see in Brooklyn, where you have another swing pass that's open. The Nets won't run, obviously, a lot of post-ups where a guy goes and digs and then runs back out to the shooter. So this specific pass isn't going to be required too much, but the pull-up 18-footer over 2 guys when, you know, there's an open 3, 5 feet away. I mean, you hope if that's Joe Harris or somebody or Kyrie, any of the Nets, you know, brilliant scorers, that's an easier read for him, as you said. But, you know, in Summer League, he was definitely prone to taking a few of those shots.
So what do you guys make of this really early dribble pickup? So, like, we talked about keeping your dribble alive, and you know, I think making preordained decisions certainly doesn't encourage like just keeping your dribble alive and seeing what happens. But like this is, this is extraordinarily early for a guy who has this level of free throw rate. So what sort of situations do you put him in to avoid this kind of dribble pickup? What sets do you kind of run to keep him in situations where you encourage the idea of like keep your dribble alive? We're going to have people shaking into corners. We're going to have movement. We have the shooters for things to develop late. How would you guys handle that process?
Well, a clip that I think I have queued up later, something that the Nets really like to run in like semi-transition for Joe Harris, is the high sort of a cross screen. He'll catch his defender lacking, coming up one side of the court, sprint to the middle. And they ran that actually a couple times for Cam Thomas in Summer League, and it seemed like the directive for him was to get that ball and get downhill because his momentum, running down the court in transition is already taking him that way. And I could definitely see the Nets doing that a bunch, trying to just generate that momentum for him, because there were a few moments in Vegas where it seems like 25 feet away from the basket, he's like, all right, I'm taking an 18-foot pull-up. And so in those 7 feet, he's not really thinking about changing his mind. He's thinking about getting to his spot and raising up. And that can be a little bit, I guess, disappointing to see for a guy with so much, ability to score the ball closer to the rim.
How about you guys? Any thoughts on the early dribble pickups?
Or just a general thought I have is like how many times per game are the Nets going to actually let Cam Thomas actually go and dribble a basketball or hold on to a basketball? Like I think they'll try to put him in situations where it's like not even 3 seconds, but like he has to do 2 seconds or less to do something, whether it's a straight line drive against a closeout or just a catch and shoot three. Like I assume they'll try to get him out of as many ball handling opportunities as possible. But I mean, I don't know how you do that.
I mean, I lean the opposite way. Like for me, I think that they should maximize how much ball handling he does. Mark, you have a
so building off that, I mean, just thinking about like what the Nets have done in this offseason, like you were just mentioning, I think that they're going to give them the ball a ton to run stuff for their backup lineups, because they really didn't have anybody who could do that last year. Everything had to flow through Kyrie, Durant, or Harden, and obviously with those three guys, you want that. But I think part of the allure of bringing in Cam is you give somebody who can run some offense, even if it's not like, he still has to work on stuff, obviously, but like somebody who can command usage, who isn't one of the 3 stars. So like something I think about is like, obviously they lost Jeff Green, but they added James Johnson, who is a very competent roller, can make passes off the short. Like I think about, okay, well, if James Johnson's in the far corner or weak side corner, like over by where Cam's at, they're probably laying off of him like this, even with better spacing, like even if James is spaced to 3, because he's not a great shooter. But okay, he could face cut whoever is guarding him. He could come off a 45 cut, like, because Cam has like very zonal vision, in my opinion, like especially like you can see it on defense. Like I never have thought it's been a not paying attention issue. It just seems like seeing like smaller zones than you would anticipate. And if somebody cuts across like right in front of his vision and he's picking up his dribble there, well, there's a bounce pass there. There's just a quick chest pass there. Like I think that's simple stuff that you could put in that makes sense with a lot of the guys that he'll probably be playing with in backup lineups.
I think people also overestimate the amount of time that the Nets, big 3 will be on the court together. I mean, looking at their schedule, they have 13 back-to-backs, and we can already anticipate that in at least 13 of those games, there's not going to be both Kyrie and Harden. When they have the big 3, they like to run James Harden plus pretty much all bench lineups, and the vast majority of the ball handling falls to Harden. But, in games where there's not Kyrie and Harden, he is the clear 3rd best, offense initiator, ball handler type on the roster. So I do think he'll get those opportunities. And I think you can play him with pretty much all the other Nets guards, and he'll maintain that role, except for Harden.
Yeah, I wonder how many plays we could get where he will initiate the play on ball and can also finish the play, but won't have to make any of the decisions that come in the middle. I guess that could be a way to help, buy him into looking to pass more. Like you sell him that he'll finish the play anyway. Just go do his penetration, give it up, and get back in position to score. Sorry.
I think he's a great candidate. I think he's a great candidate for those scissors actions that the Nets love to run, with a big at the top of the key and two guards crossing off each shoulder. That seems like a real easy way for them to do exactly what you described, Noah. Make sure he's initiating and finishing the play, but not really making the bulk of the decisions.
Yeah, especially if that big is Kevin Durant.
That is a good point.
The nice life you could have.
Yeah, and they can run Kevin Durant off them too if they want. Yeah. This is sort of the Harris cut I was talking about, and this is a great example of what Mark was talking about with the zonal vision, and why I'm not too worried about Cam's passing, because if the read is in front of him, he's making it. That's fairly simple, but it is a nice bounce pass to the dunker spot. He sees early the help stepping up. That's not the kind of shot I would worry about him, or the pass I would worry about him missing. And this play, I think, is, where you worry about him picking the dribble up too early, maybe because he's bothered from behind, maybe because it's high. But he reminds me of Karis LeVert, honestly, just from watching the Nets these last few years. That was a big issue for him, trying to keep his dribble alive further in the paint, create easier shots.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this a little bit last time with Patrick Williams, with Laro, where it's just like, in the NBA, you don't even have to take an extra dribble. It's just wait a little bit longer to pick up, to kill it on the confirmed pickup and steal a step. If he steals an extra step here, then he walks in for a layup or a dunk. And I think just adjusting to how the NBA allows for stuff like that in a way that other systems don't. And obviously he has a lot of that really advanced craft in on the perimeter and with negative movements. But it's just establishing that going downhill because there's going to be a lot of opportunities to flash that in the spacing that Brooklyn's going to be able to create.
There definitely will be. And in the NBA, it's not about one gather step. It's about two or three. This is a really nice play. Caught my eye in the pick and roll where he makes sure the defender is on his back and doesn't pick the ball up there. He takes another dribble and goes off 2 feet, drawing the contact. That 2-foot finish plus keeping the dribble alive is what really stood out to me. And this is a similar play. Comes off the Harris cut, as I call it, and keeps his dribble alive, goes off 2 feet. I just think he has the upper body frame to really take advantage of those 2-foot finishes. And the more the Nets can sort of generate action for him like this to get downhill, I think the more effective he'll be early on.
Yeah, that's going to be essential for him. It just minimizes the amount of I don't say bad decisions, but bad circumstances for his decision making. Don't put him in spaces where he has to make a 4-layer decision. Put him in situations where he can build some, and so that way when eventually you put him in a multi-layered decision, he is has enough comfort and stuff like that. Because if you put him in, I think more stuff like this, where it's just all right, you got a lot to read right now, and he's trying to manipulate it. It's just that ultimately he is forced to make a pass that he doesn't really have in his back right now.
Mm-hmm. He just takes too long. Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's exactly what you said. The thought process is there. I think it's very encouraging. He's trying to read the weak side, low man, but it just takes a little bit too long, whether that's because he's not seeing over the defense, whether he doesn't trust himself to throw that lob early. I think that's something playing with Harden and even Kyrie in Brooklyn will really help a lot. And then this is an example of how he's going to hunt catch and shoot opportunities. I wouldn't say I worry about it, but I think it's interesting to note he loves the 2-foot, hop and load. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that can, I think, slow down his release a little bit.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you can see it in his step backs. He loves it too. He loves the Dame Pound step back where it's landing on 2 to go up off 2. I think that a thing that I've found to be very interesting studying Cam over the years is that it's hard to get a true read for how good of a shooter he is. Because in AAU and at LSU, he takes a lot of he has a shot selection that is Bones Highland-esque, where it's all of these come under great duress. And while it's not the same numbers that Bones shot, his last year at VCU, it's that like Bones shot 36, 37%, but like to me, he was the best shooter in the draft because you saw that on those shots. And so it's the same idea. Obviously, I think Camp's like a little lower level, but like you can't look at the numbers and be like, yeah, he's a fine shooter. It's like, no, anybody shooting double step backs or fade away after 4-move combo is like not going to be a statistically good shooter.
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it is the same, it's the same phenomenon we think about with James Harden. And it's, almost tough to evaluate how good of a shooter you are when all of your shots are, in that fashion. I'm really interested to see, his first 2 years, whatever they say, 700, 750 attempts is when, 3-point percentage stabilizes. But looks like that I think, that will just come as a byproduct of the Nets office, not even, running around screens, but just ball penetration, swing, so many of the possessions we saw last year. I think that context will give me a much better idea for how good of a, shooter he actually is.
Yep.
This is another example, comes off that sort of high cross screen. Maybe has this read to Day'Ron Sharpe. Definitely could have it to the corner. Opts for the 16-footer instead. And again, it's a 2-foot loading process, that hop. And if you could just rewind just a little bit back to the shot, I think it's one of those where he lands so explosively that it kind of stunts his momentum going back up for the shot.
Mm-hmm.
If I can say something here, I think he did have the window, but maybe he's just not very used to being in that type of situation, throwing that type of passes. Yeah, right here, the window's there, but he's dialed in on the pump fake. So I know pace is a word that's just thrown around way too often, but I think him being more aware of the different ways that, a play could evolve into would help him, just like making sure that the ball's always in a position where he could dump it off if need be, pass it, instead of like almost scripting his movements to a certain extent that, as you can see here, stops him from filling the pass. Because otherwise, if, his dribble was like kind of a half second off or so in either direction, I think he may have had that pass available to him.
Mark, can I ask a question? Do you think that this is a throwable pass, like either right now or in like the half second before? I can rewind it just a touch.
I think it's a much more difficult pass than it looks like because of where his momentum's at, considering the length of the defender on him. I think it's a makeable pass for most like lead guards, but just given right now, like I think that's probably a turnover or just a bad pass.
Yeah, I would say that I don't think it's a makeable pass, like for almost anybody. I guess unless you are like Harden, because look at the way he's manipulating the big. He's manipulating him with a shot, so he's not trying to create a passing window. So the when like he comes down and like the big the stunter fully clears out, it's not there because the big is standing in the way to block the shot. If he had manipulated towards the pass, he would have had one of the passing lanes open. But instead, because he manipulated towards the shot, the defender's just standing right in front of him. And that left-hand pass is super dicey. Like that's a tiny window, probably with some spin, and it's probably going to end up being behind the big. So I would say that like the end result is probably like a fine enough decision because it wasn't a turnover or whatever. But the process to which he gets there, he needs to threaten if teams believe he's a threat to pass and are worried about it, these windows will open up a little bit bigger. Like I guess you could throw that like you want to nutmeg this guy? Like that's where we are. Like that we're asking Cam Thomas, a guy who is famous for being shoot first, shoot second, to start throwing nutmeg pick and rolls to roll guys. I think that's a tough expectation, but I think that it's also important to note that like the defenders are responding to the reputation he has, and that's how he needs to work on framing the coverages that he has to allow himself to be have more options.
Yeah, it's definitely a case of him, I guess, predetermining I'm going to shoot this pull up versus, not actually making the read because it's not there for sure.
Or forcing the defender to make the read. Like whatever the defender gives you, punish them for it. It's like, I think there's a jumper here.
Yeah, that definitely feels like his thought process when I was watching him in Summer League. This is an example of the off-ball stuff. That concept Mark brought up is definitely useful here. I saw a lot of possessions where he's not seeing man and ball. His back is turned to the ball, and that maybe isn't the primary reason why he gets, back cut to the rim here, or face cut to the rim there. But it's going to be hard, I guess, to keep him on the court if that's something that defenses are, or offenses are consistently trying to expose.
It's just ideally you want high motor guys next to stars, ideally, especially defensively, over communicators who don't have to, because they're not handling as much burden, have to kind of cover for how heavy usage stars work, and that's just not where Cam is right now. So I'm excited to see how that adjustment process works, and I think it'll be clear from like preseason games that he's going to recognize that he can play like real minutes next to stars if he gets those things down.
Yeah, the lineup combinations are definitely getting early pickup where he opts for the high sort of step through versus the low dribble, like Kyrie Irving, master at getting low, splitting those two guys. But he makes the floater. It's a tough shot, but it may be an example of an area where he can improve, get low, keep the dribble alive, and get into the defender's chest for a layup.
Mark, I wanted to ask, does this remind you at all of like seeing Brogdon when he was younger, where he just like was kind of susceptible to digs that shouldn't bother him, like where he picked up the ball a little bit quicker than you would want, and it resulted in like a lower shot quality? Because like to me, this isn't like a serious dig. Like he could just change hands and this dig is gonna go away.
Yeah, I'd actually say so. It's kind of different players. A little bit like Aaron Holiday and what Aaron Holiday struggled with. Like he's fully capable of taking that other step and not letting it bother him. But you'd routinely see him, like if the big showed any kind of help or there was any kind of stun at the nail, it's a floater or some kind of really awkward jumper. And I agree, like you totally see that. This is not really a very serious dig. Like if he's becoming more comfortable with navigating through that, like, oh, this is kind of like fake help right here.
Mm-hmm. Or, I mean, help that you can, like, trick into over, like, fully committing. Like, if you hesitate a little bit, this is a back cut. The guy might fully commit and you just, like, flick it behind him with no issue. Like, I think that these are moments where I'm excited to see how he progresses, because he's going to have so many opportunities to get downhill, and just given his reputation and craft level previously, to see how he applies that.
Yeah, this, of all the areas of improvement you would be looking for from him, that's an area where you expect, I think, the most amount of development, because it's in line with, skills he's already so good at. That step back is just super tough. The space creation is really there. But something that I think about with this play is, does he have the angle towards the basket? Does he opt for those tough, off the dribble jumpers versus a potential lane to the rim? Is that going to deflate his numbers at the end of the year because he's just taking such, difficult shots the majority of the time? Because that's not a really serious show by the big.
No, it's not. It's also like, so I would like to ask other people what they make of this pick and roll coverage and his decision making. Like I've frozen in this moment where we see that, like, we got a bit of a show. There's this like a ghost that flares out, and we have one defender on two on the weak side. Like right now, he's taking obviously a huge downhill stride. Like, do we think that he's reading these defenders? Do we think that this is already a decision to take the step back? Like, there's a bit of a lane to the rim. Like, how are we seeing his vision in this moment?
I see right here that he's already decided he's taking a step back, like pretty clearly, like that he's planting that foot and saying, "Oh, I'm stepping back because I have Primo going 100% on me." Like, I wouldn't say that it doesn't feel like he doesn't see the big, but it's almost like he's like, "Oh, I have my guy going a million miles the wrong direction. I'm taking a step back because I'm going to have a ton of space off that." So to me, it feels very much premeditated after he gets Primo going forward like that.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that too. This actually looks like some similar situations that the guy I'm going to look at later, Jalen Green, saw it himself in. Actually, yeah, very, very similar. And I agree with Mark. I mean, the right foot, it looks like he's going to plant it and use it to push off. And I feel like there's not really a straight path there. He kind of had to curve around a bit, kind of take like a bit of a zigzag route to the rim. So I think taking that into account, like where the help is, where what angle he's facing, and his ball handling, I'd say it's probably he's thinking about the step back.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's not reading that tag defender, and he's made the decision. What I would like, I do not think there's a route to the rim here. I think that this defender is going to slide. And he's going to dribble into a triple team, basically. Like this is one of the situations that, like, if you take the screen capture, it feels like there's a lane there, but that big is one step away, and that ball is like really far back on his hip. I would much rather he slow down and then like make Primo jump all the way in front, and then change directions back to the middle, knowing that this big has to clear out to get to his man. But to me, this goes to the like some people would say this is bad shot selection, and to me, I don't think so. Because like, if you're good at this shot, is it a bad shot? Like if you are like NBA good at this shot, is it a bad shot? And it's like, well, look, I probably would have some issues with the process getting to the shot, like where you're allowed teams to run, I would say, like not a great coverage and let this weak side dude cover two people for a second. But like the shot itself is a great understanding of what he's good at, which is that like I can shoot with negative momentum in small windows, and he shoots negative momentum in small windows and knocks it down. So I think that separating like what his situation is from overall situations is like in overall situations, you would want this read to happen and to force the defense to adjust. And then in his situation, it's like you're pretty fine with the outcome, but probably upset with the process. That's my read on
it
this.
definitely doesn't feel like bad shot selection. Just more, he's in the mindset, I'm looking for a shot, maybe not necessarily the shot.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're such a talented shot maker, that's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah,
No.
I think also if he was good enough to, I mean, you guys thought he should have slowed down and attacked again, but if he was going to make a pass there, like that wasn't the most ideal position. I mean, he has a guy behind him who's going to like, or kind of on his right, on the right of his hip, who's going to stop any like cross court pass, and like that. So the 5-out spacing there isn't ideal. I mean, if someone could have like flashed or cut, maybe there would have been a different choice, but there aren't really that many decisions available to him there. So I don't hate it because he can do that, and it's being given to him.
Yeah, to me, I think that the word, like with guys like Cam, shot selection generally is about it's sort of slander towards an archetype. I'm known to be a bit of a combo guard agnostic, but I think that it's important to understand.
Kind of way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm into some self flattery right now, but the reality is that like historically he's very good at that shot. So if we're saying how is that poor shot selection, if you're taking a shot that you're good at that is efficient for you, like he is understanding what it is, like his strengths and weaknesses are. The role within an offense is something different. Like that as an initiator is not an issue of shot selection. It's an issue of role allocation and action allocation by a coaching staff. And it's like, well, if you know a guy loves a step back and will take it in every pick and roll, like maybe don't give him as many pick and rolls or this, that, and the third. And I think that's why I've been so fascinated with the Cam Thomas pick for Brooklyn. Like, I think it's a wonderful pick, but it's also a chance to really explore some of these really like well-worn ideas about like shot selection and how players fit into specific roles and how they can be downsized. Any quick thoughts on, or any, I don't want to say quick, and talk as long as you want. Any ideas about Cam Thomas you guys would like to cover? Or things that came up for you?
I'm just really interested to see where he fits in with the Nets next year in terms of lineup combinations, because he will, by virtue of the schedule, their load management, I guess somewhat the lack of ball handling on the roster outside the stars, where he'll fit in next year. And I think it'll be a great opportunity for him when he's playing next to guys like Patty Mills and James Johnson. I see those sorts of bench players as the guys he's going to spend a lot of time with. I'm much more interested to see how the off-ball defense, the catch and shoot, 3-pointers look in that sort of context versus summer league when these guys met each other 6 days ago. They're not really running too many sets on either end.
Shout out to him having a 56 true shooting percentage. that I feel like if you had come in, I think that there is a tendency to turn guys like him into like running jokes, where it's like, oh, Cam Thomas will take anything. It's like, no, but Cam Thomas is like a very good basketball player. Like, it's like this is going to be a guy who like is an important piece in Brooklyn, and I think not losing sight of that for the fact that he does insanely confident and brash things on a basketball court. Which, like, shout out to that. I love a dude who believes in himself that much and is willing to tell you about it. Okay, any last stuff as a fire truck rambles by on this stormy evening? So, tell me about Chris Duarte. What were the areas of attention you have? Let's get into it.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier, I'm really kind of impressed with what I saw in summer league. There were some things that transferred well that we'll get into, especially like when thinking about what his role is going to be, especially like coming into a team that is trying to make the playoffs this year, and has said as much as why they drafted Duarte, because they feel he's ready to come in and perform like that. It's kind of in a similar spot with Cam Thomas. So to me, the first area is having a quick trigger, like just making very quick decisions, but not just as a passer. Like, he needs to speed things up as a shooter. I think that's an area of attention for me for sure. Off-ball aggression is something that I'm really honed in on as well on both sides. Like, I think I have more questions about the defense, and we'll talk about that in stream. Not that it's bad or anything, but like honing that in and figuring out what that is at the NBA level. Feeling help is something that I think we saw a lot at Oregon in terms of, him trying to find some more stability as a ball handler. And that was on display a lot in summer league as well. Looking at the athletic translation for him, because I think that he doesn't like necessarily pop as like a traditional run jump athlete, but there are some areas in which he really does, and I think that translated pretty well at the in summer league so far, and kind of projecting that out a little bit, and then looking at self creation upside, because there was some stuff showing that Indiana's trying to get anything they can out of him in terms of self creation, and we saw some interesting stuff with that at summer league as well.
Wow, there wasn't a single joke about his age in there. I'm surprised.
No, because we're not doing that. I've
Okay,
heard.
yeah.
I think I've been tagged in 27 of those, which is older than him. So there, we got one. But yes, I'm ready to go without any age slander moving forward.
I'm gonna hold you to that. All right, let's roll some clips.
So in this first one, this is talking a little bit about that off-ball aggression. It seems really small, but like, I love what Duarte does on here. This is just an intuitive cut. Like, Jalen Johnson is trying to face guard him, prevent the DHO. As soon as Duarte notices how heavily Johnson is committed to him, he just face cuts, and it draws the help. It gets O'Shea Brissett an open shot, and that's the kind of stuff that's really going to be impactful for him next year on the offensive side of the floor. Moving into this next one, this is talking more about the quick trigger. Like, there will be some aspects where it doesn't necessarily show through, and we'll talk more about it. But here, he just has an awesome cut, great sidelines. I mean, baseline out of bounds play. This stuff is really vital for him, like just finding small release valve aspects in which he can impact on the offensive side. If you can rewind a little bit.
Course. How many plays you want me to rewind?
Just like on this one's good.
Okay. You wanted to replay this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, it's kind of the quintessential Duarte play. Like, you see, he flows so well off ball, just gets his feet set extremely quick. Like, I love his shot prep, frankly. This is the kind of stuff for why Indiana drafted him. Like, if you can have this playing off of Domantas Sabonis or Malcolm Brogdon, like, that's fantastic role player stuff. Okay, so for this one, they ran a lot of they would run him off of a lot of stagger screens into a pick and roll. How do you feel about this possession from him? Because he doesn't really get separation. Part of that is because he gets a little bit of extra help on him. But I mean, I guess it's kind of a larger question. How did you feel about him as a pick and roll ball handler and the playmaking from it? Because to me, my biggest takeaway from him is I want him to become a real angle savant in some ways. Like, and I don't know how feasible that is, but he's a guy who just doesn't, like, the angles really aren't there for him in some ways. And you can see, like we talked about with Cam Thomas, like he's feeling through the progressions and seeing stuff, but actually manufacturing that angle wasn't really there.
Yeah, I think that two things are happening here. The first is that like his handle isn't quite on the level where he can get exactly where he wants to every time. There's just going to be some natural give and go or give between like what he could separate with in college and what he can at an NBA talent level. And the second thing is that like he has Isaiah Jackson setting screens for him. And like any time that you do compound developments where you have one player who's developing in a specific area where another player is developing, you're going to have natural messiness. So I think that like you can see on a lot of these screens that like Isaiah Jackson does a touch where he needed to hold, or he does a pivot where he should have ghosted. It's I think difficult to judge someone in an area where somebody else is very clearly learning. Where if this were one of the the classic like summer league guys who's a guy who's a staple in Germany and is here to be an approximate while raising his stock overseas. I think I would take a little bit more from it. I think it's those two things happening, but you do see that like he's allowing defenders to get some separate or to close down some gaps, and then we have early dribble kill, that handle issue coming up where he needs to find a new level of comfort in this setting. Anybody else have a particular takeaway on him coming off these staggers and then flowing into actions? Okay, let's keep moving.
Okay, so this is one of the things that really popped for me. Like I liked his drive game quite a bit at Oregon, and I think it looked really good at Summer League. It was something I was interested to see because, like we've talked about, the handle's not. I mean, it's pretty functional, but finding it against NBA athletes is something I was wondering about. Obviously, I don't really expect him to get ISO reps or anything, but I'm just a very big fan of this craft around the rim. Like I think you can see kind of the micro skill a little bit. Like even as a guy who's not a massive vertical athlete, he gets really good hang time and he adjusts the ball as soon as he sees Johnson commit, which I think that's just something that I really like seeing against. I mean, I think he shot 62% on 2-pointers this year. And this is part of the reason why he's able to do some of these mid-air adjustments that, and that's something that really pops for me.
I don't know if it's zoomed in enough or that we have the wrong person wearing the wrong color shirt behind, but let me move my mouse right there. These are his elbows right here. And a good vet trick is finish, like when you do two-handed finishing, is putting the ball a little bit behind your head so that anybody who jumps runs a real risk of getting elbows to the face. And it allows for like just a natural core stability because the ball's over your head. It's centered. And it makes it pretty difficult if somebody hits you to like lose the ball and you get a good chance of finishing. So like this is craft, but it's also like a very specific type of craft that's centered on kind of being bigger and stronger than many of the guards that can try to keep in front of him.
If I could say a thing I liked here, not so much about the finishing, but about the handle, or rather how he's using the handle, is originally he gets a bit of separation, and then is back there, and the defender has to take 2 steps to go and get up to him. And I liked how he waited until the defender stepped his right foot up as well, so that it's because if he just puts his left foot up and then Chris Duarte starts to drive, he can swing his left foot back, and because his right foot's farther back, he can mirror the drive better. But because he waits till the right foot is all the way up, there's not an easy way for the defender to mirror Chris Duarte. So I really like that patience there and waiting for him to fully set both his feet.
Yeah, certainly something. Love the offhand violence too. Really good at using that.
Yeah. So for this one, this is, I mean, I had to throw this one in for you. It's a very special play, obviously. Aggressive two-handed help from Chris Duarte. That's the PD Web special. So, wait, hold on a sec. I might have the notes up wrong.
Sure.
No, this was correct play. Sorry, I thought I was reading it wrong. Yeah, two hands for safety. I really like his ability to help off ball. I thought that really stood out. His ground coverage was fantastic. If you could rewind it a little bit, sorry, I slowed down on that.
No worries.
But how do you feel about how aggressive he is off ball? I feel like it'll be, I mean, obviously it's going to be different once he is in the NBA and playing under a pretty veteran coach. But I felt a lot of times watching him, his level of aggression was not, I mean, it was almost too much considering his closeouts looked better in Summer League than they were at Oregon. But like there, I mean, he has his back to the defender. That's not an easy closeout. Granted, Sharif's not making that pass, but that's something I do have questions about at the next.
So what jumps out to me, and I'm curious to see if everybody else feels this way, is that like he seems like a guy who's been playing like down the age curve. Like I don't mean this as a joke. I just mean like he's a guy who can get away with more, even though we don't think of him as like a masterful athlete. Like knowing how to move in a college space is really worth a lot. It's allowed him to be hyper aggressive and gamble and understand where the angles are going to come from. And to me, this looked like a guy who was trying the stuff that definitely worked in college. And I think that what's going to happen naturally in the NBA is just a counter adjustment. It's like, okay, this part works, this part doesn't. Does that scan with everybody else? Anybody have a different or a different element that jumped out to you about how heartily he digs off ball and how much he hunts events?
No, first of all, nice to see everyone. But no, I think I very much agree with PD because, like, for the mindset of most players, it's going to be, well, I'm going to do it until it stops working, right? And so if that aggressive mindset happened in college and it succeeded at a very high level and not a crazy jump in Summer League, lots of the same kinds of players, no surprise he's going to continue to do it. And I'm going to have to see him to do it until it stops working. And then, like PD said, make that adjustment and works from there.
Lucas, we're losing you a little bit. Just a little bit underwater sounding. No, still a little underwater.
No.
Technical difficulties are back, baby. Vintage stuff for me. This is, this is absolutely nothing compared to what it used to be. Oh my God. When it used to sound like slowed and reverbed times 1,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say, remember when your mic was very ineffective? I remember those times.
Yeah, I think there were like 3 of them, and then I figured it out. But yeah, yeah, the new heads have no idea what we went through.
Yeah.
They weren't with us shooting in the gym.
They were not shooting with us shooting in the gym. Absolutely.
But we still appreciate everyone for joining.
Oh yeah. This is the one and only time we'll bring up the old days. Chandler, we do not talk about that time. It's absolutely, that is the only thing that's banned. It is the time that I redubbed an entire stream because it was so destroyed. It working any better, Lucas? No. All right, we will.
No, it's not any better.
It's weird. Maybe pop out of the call and just pop back in. I always figure that out. All right, Mark, you want to keep going while we try to adjust this? And then we can come back to Lucas, whatever point you have. Save it. We'll jump back in. I'm sure it'll apply. It's not like he's going to become a drastically different basketball player in the next like 10 clips. All right.
So I really like the setup here. I like that he takes that hang dribble going right. He doesn't try and force anything. He obviously doesn't have the drive. But hold on a second, I'm waiting for it to catch up. So yeah, he has this right here, sets it up a little bit, feels out the help. I feel like there's not really a play to O'Shea Brissett there, but I mean, like, how do you feel about the possession overall?
I mean, to me, it looks like a good, like it's a conservative read, but it's a good one. Like in this circumstance, like you could throw it all the way to the corner if you really wanted to, but like the defense is in recovery. This one guy has two people. Like you swing it here. If the second defender on the XF doesn't recover, then it's a one more swing. But like this is the right read. It's an adult read. It's not a particularly flashy one, but that's what you do when you overcome a hedge and you have the defender and the big is recovering.
Yep.
You could force it. It just doesn't always work well.
Yeah, Brissett's not getting that off quick enough that it's going to matter. This is something that was a big problem for him at Summer League. One of the only real kind of dark spots. Like he just gets sent to the shadow realm if aggressive help comes at the nail, or from just anything from the corner. Like if he was running a spread pick and roll, it looked fine with his handle because, the help's just not that close to him. But anytime when he came down a more congested side of the court, there would be very aggressive digs at his handle, and we saw a lot of him having to pick up his dribble or just losing the dribble overall like that.
What do you attribute his early pickups to?
I think he's got kind of high hips, which is something that plays out on defense a little bit too. So his dribble is just kind of high, in my opinion. I think that's a big part of it. His dribble is not super compact and low. So I think that contributes to a lot of it. Maybe that's an improper way of reading it, but I think that's how I see it. And you see it again here too on the second play, like running pick and roll. Like again, there isn't really a read there for him to make the O'Shea Brissett, but he doesn't feel the help coming off of the high tag. Like he struggled with high tags too. Like you see that if you can scroll it back again. Sorry.
You do not have to apologize for talking about basketball more, okay? Especially pick and roll coverage.
That's a good point. I just feel bad for saying obviously early in the beginning, so I have to redeem myself at some point.
Oh, so if you think fake humbleness is the way,
yeah, that's the way. But yeah, so I personally like how he runs this. Like I like the pacing. He gets Sharif on the back a little bit. Obviously, they switch the action, but yeah, he does not see 42 come in at all on that, and I think that's just an issue for him. I don't really know what to chalk that up to. Probably just because he's not used to having a million on-ball reps. Like even when he was at Oregon, he actually had a higher usage in Summer League than he did at Oregon this last year. So I feel like it's more just he's not used to getting those kinds of ball handling reps. But regardless, it does stand out.
Yeah, I think that with the 2022 class we have coming, I think that dribble or that dig susceptibility is going to be a theme that gets hit on over and over again.
Definitely. So this is another thing when looking at what his role is defensively, because I actually like him quite a bit defensively, especially off ball. I just kind of wonder how to view him as an on-ball defender. If you can scroll back a play, who do you envision him defending at the NBA level? Because this isn't, again, it's not perfect to me. It's just Summer League. But I like his containment on Sharif in this play. You can kind of see, like, even though he shows real strength on drives and on offense, he really struggles to play with strength at the point of attack on defense. Like Sharif knocks him off his base here, and Sharif Cooper is not somebody who should be knocking you off your base, just to be completely frank. But I think he does
the SEC.
I mean, like he's got power, but like when you're 6'6" and like 220, like that's
yeah. I think that this is one of the places where it's like multiple years of strength conditioning does make a huge difference.
Yeah.
But like, I think that if you are like, I think that you'd kind of want to put him on smaller guys, and
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, because I really like him as a nail defender and on the back line as well. Like we'll talk about moving forward. And I think like even seeing Oregon, like I kind of like him guarding smaller players, and I think that makes a lot of sense for the Pacers because Malcolm Brogdon is very much so the opposite. You do not want him to guard smaller players. On this play, this one is when I mentioned quick trigger at the beginning. this is something where I look at for him. Like, I love this play. I think this is going to be the kind of stuff that he's using, like using a lot of flare screens, running Spain pick and roll with him as the back screener. I need him to take that three. Like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but if you're demanding a closeout like that, I need you to take the three. I understand that he's a very capable one dribble pull up guy. But I mean, like, just scrolling back, like, look at he's ready to shoot before the guy's even to the free throw line. Like, to me, that's a shot that he has to take and take quickly.
Yeah, to me, this is an ideal sidestep pull candidate.
Yeah.
Just take a sidestep. There's no, like, which defender is it that's going to close out on it?
Exactly.
I think getting run off the 3-point line is somebody who struggles with, I would say struggle, but like is not a fantastic passer in those moments, is a win for the defense. So either he has to add passing craft and get to the point where he is adding value after being run off the line. Because, like, I mean, most teams are going to be cool with this outcome, especially for the level of shooter that he is, which, like, I think that the college numbers undersell how good of a shooter he is.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. So that's something that you want to see him improve on. And especially like I'm mentioning Quick Trigger earlier, because he's not a guy who's going to ever really have the ball in his hands, at least at the level that we saw in Summer League. Like, he needs to be able to be that kind of release valve guy who is getting a shot off very quickly. In this play, this is just one of my favorite micro skills from the 2021 NBA draft, and that is that Chris Duarte is a legitimate weak side rim protector. I obviously not to the level he was in Summer League. He averaged over 2 blocks per game at Summer League and across 4 games. But like, he's impactful enough where he can really come over and times his blocks really well and contest at the rim in general. And part of it, again, like, you know, it's going to be, he's not going to be able to be that aggressive at the NBA level, but I just love that's part of his game.
Yeah, the ability of timing overwhelms how much, you know, how the level of athleticism. Like, he has the timing to pull it off.
Mm-hmm. If you can move this one back. So this is just another thing that's a positive of his game. Like, I don't like saying the word clutch. I think it's kind of overrated, but I do think there is something to it. Like, he has this ability in his game. Like, he's a very good offensive rebounder, which you wouldn't expect for his size. He times things well. Like you'll see on this, he sets the back screen on the Spain pick and roll, flares out the three. As soon as the ball goes up, I mean, he's running to the rim. Like, there are a lot of guys who just like talking about in boxing. Like, I would always get yelled at by my coaches for like falling in love with my punches. Like, there are a lot of guys who they can just watch the shot go up and they don't move. He reacts very quickly, and that results in him hitting one of his 4 or 5 buzzer beaters at Summer League. I don't want to like just chalk it up to being an intangible or something, but it's something that not every guy has.
I mean, I think that what is a tangible, like, I think that, like, we call the ability to, you know, respond under pressure is like a real neurological response. I think that, like, guys who can alter their form to take shots that are strange, like fading, you know, probably like double clutched a little bit, like, that stuff is very tangible, and you see it over and over from him. It's it's not just like a catch and shoot that a team needs to have. It's like, you know, a shot where he's contorted a bit, a shot where the footwork is funky and he's really trying to, like, work through a read. So that's the stuff that I think you can separate from clutch, just being like, there are shots under duress that he's in this class, like, you know, a 95th percentile shooter at.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something that you want. The Pacers definitely need. Like, TJ Warren is kind of the only guy you can really rely on for that on the team right now. For this, I love this. Like, I think it's not technically a second side action, but it feels like it in some ways because it's coming off of another action. You know, it's more flowing into a DHO than anything else. And I love that he takes this extra dribble and hesitates a little bit, and gets he causes man to take an extra stride and slow down a little bit, and then attacks again with pace. If you can back up a little bit. I really believe in that quick manipulation for him. And I think if his dribble is really going to improve, it's coming with more of that hesitation stuff because he's not an elite burst guy. So I just like seeing that kind of stuff and getting him to the rim, and it's one of the areas where I really want to see him try and get workshopped in the NBA. Especially like imagining it with like Domantas Sabonis, who's one of the most dynamic screeners and passers in the NBA. Like it just makes sense getting that kind of stuff going for him.
I think you're the only guest that we have that would talk about somebody as a dynamic screener, and I'm so happy for that.
Well, I mean, it's a true thing. Like,
yeah, but just like screen dynamism, love it.
It's real. On this one, hold on, I'm trying to look at my notes. Wait, if you could go back, I think one more clip. Yes. All right, this is the right one. This is looking at the closeouts being a problem. I do think they overall looked better than they were at Oregon because that was one of my only sticking points for his defense. He has a real problem with jumping at everything right now, and I wouldn't say that that's just being a rookie thing. Like there are guys who are good at not jumping on closeouts, and this in essence loses them the game because he fouls. And they never regain the lead after this. And again, it's not he doesn't lose them the game because he was the best player for them in this game, but this one play is kind of not great. And like if that happens in an NBA game and Rick Carlisle is not happy about that, then that impacts playing time. Like so I think that's another thing. Like I really want to see him clean up this year, and it's going to take time. I don't know how you feel about like jumping at shots because it's just like throughout this game it happened multiple times. I mean, where are you at with that?
I mean, to me, it just seems like somebody trying to overcompensate for not having great tools and just wanting to get good contests and eagerness to do so. But like, I don't actually think like jumping for shots is that meaningful. Like just in general, like I don't think it doesn't matter too much. It's more about like the spatial relationship between how close you are. But certainly a controversial topic that doesn't have that much data to broadly back it in any direction.
Well, yeah. If anything, it's probably better to chop your feet than to give up a foul with a minute left. On this last clip, this is just another really fun moment of weak side rim protection from Chris Duarte. Like you see his ability to impact things in small spaces. Like I just think that's a beautiful thing. Like goodbye to Sharif Cooper's layup attempt. We're not going to pretend that Sharif hits the three like 30 seconds later here. But on this moment, it looks absolutely fantastic. Like he knows, okay, Sharif is completely committed to this drive, times it well. That's stuff that's impactful to me.
Does the 75% release or the 3/4 release on the mellow block, but instead of doing it from the middle to the outside, does it from the outside to the middle? Mm-hmm. The only person in the NBA who could ever get away with that. Not enough attention was paid to that in his prime. Okay, overall thoughts on Duarte? Impressions that you had from him that were confirmed or denied. How's everybody sounding? And how's everybody feeling? Any jumping off points?
I'm not gonna act like I watched a crazy amount of him during summer league or was like paying attention paying a crazy amount of attention at the time. But from what I saw, he showed that he was a level above the general competition, which at his age is what he's supposed to do. And I think that's important because a lot of the time the question is, oh, he's doing this against 18, 19-year-olds. Can you do that? How much of this does this translate? And it's not a massive step petition, but it's a significant jump, and it's important that he showed that a lot of the stuff did translate.
All right. So I want to ask a question off of that, just to the group in general. And that's something I've really tried to wrap my head around with the draft pick in general, because there was a lot of ire from the Pacers fan base in drafting him over, a younger prospect. And I think some of the way that I've tried to look at it is less about the fact that he is 24. And like, I understand what you're saying in that he should be dominating guys of this age. And I get that physically, but also I think just looking in terms of basketball years, he's had a very different route to getting to the NBA. So I think I would count that a little bit more in his favor than just straight up looking at the age. I don't know if you would agree with that, PD, but I do think we can look at the fact Michael Beasley was playing in summer league and he looked not very good, if we're being completely honest. Like that, we could talk about the entire Trailblazers roster.
No.
So
No, we're not talking.
Well, yeah, we're not going to talk about them, but I think, to me, like, I'm not trying to say that the age has been oversold, because I do think, like, I think that's been hashed out enough, but, like, I also think it's less about him just overperforming because he's 24. It feels more like, no, he's performing well because he's a good basketball player. Like, and maybe that's reductive in some senses, but I don't know. Where are you guys at with that?
So yeah, I just wanted to say it. Like I'm fairly confident. I was fairly confident pre-draft of Duarte being at least a solid rotation player. But so my thing is, like, there are concerns by some people. Yeah, concerns by some people, and I was just trying to address that. But no, I do agree on some level of what you're saying, Mark.
Yeah, it's me. I'm some people. I think Duarte is going to be a very it is a very good bet to be a solid rotation player. With obviously some outcomes depending on how the team gets built. That being said, like, I don't really understand why this is the route that the team has gone. Like, just in terms of asset allocation and the roster building generally. Like, not that he like blocks in some way, just like I have a different read on where the roster is right now than they seem to.
There's two of us.
Yeah, like, and that's I think the limits of, like, I just generally am like, yeah, if you're a team that is good, you should take swings or take things that fit picture perfectly. And if they think they're good, they should. No. I think the Chris Duarte of it all is not particularly relevant there. It's the process that went into selecting him.
Correct. Like, I'd agree with PD. I'm fairly confident Chris Duarte is going to be a very good basketball player, and will probably, in terms of like quote unquote draft value, will net out as a 13th overall pick value.
Yeah, at least I would say 13th is a pretty low bar. Like in what actual value looks like. Obviously, like one of the secrets of the draft is that, like, once you get past like 6, if you like stick in the league for 6 years on the same team, like you're generally positive value. But yeah, I don't really have worries about it. I just don't know what it means. That's where I am. Is there any Chris Duarte specific concerns we got left, or thoughts that came up from seeing him in summer league? Before I move on to Jalen Green. All right. Let's talk about the areas of attention for Jalen Green.
All right. So first thing I looked at was the defense. Now, while his offense is far from a definite thing, I just think he's going to be on the floor because of his offense. So, why not see what he can add on the defensive end? Obviously, he'll be running around a lot on offense. He'll have a large load, so they'll probably kind of stuff him to the side and make other guys handle the big load on defense. But when I watched this game, I noticed that he was trying like hard. He was putting a real effort on defense, and thanks to his incredible movement skills, I mean, just such a fluid athlete. I think between the effort that he's giving and the tools that he has, I think there's really a pretty good off-ball defender somewhere in there, and that's just going to be a value add because, as I said, he'll be on the floor anyway. So him being able to really, cover a lot of ground and occupy a lot of space on defense may help set up a more diverse offensive structure around him because, he can potentially, maybe if he hits one of his like higher end defensive outcomes, potentially cover a bit for some other players. 2 is his handle versatility. Green doesn't have best handle, but it's not really black and white. He has like the snatch back and like the hesitation move that he loves. His handle really thrives in some situations, and it's pretty bad in others. And I think that kind of determines how he has a big role in determining how he can be used. I think specifically he's really good when he's just, already running, already in motion, stopping, starting, pausing. But when he has to kind of shake a guy off from a standstill, go east-west, it's not as good. So I was looking at his handle for discovering his usage allocation. So even though he's probably going to be or has a chance to be an offensive star, he's not your typical heliocentric star who's going to do it all, who's going to create the advantage, make the decision and then dish it off to the play finisher.
or perhaps even finish it himself. I was looking at how many ways can he be used on offense. Could he be used to just create that advantage and initiate it? Is he going to be able to finish plays? Could he even play a connector role in some spots? Because he can't put it all together, but he can still find himself involved in many offensive possessions. So I was looking like, what does he look like coming off screens? Can he initiate, play finishing, all that stuff? Just what's Jalen Green going to look like on offense? Because he'll be getting at his peak probably 25 or something points per game, but it may not be how you traditionally imagine a player like that scores. Then leveraging his scoring gravity with passing. I think Green, relative to some other players, I think his gravity is like a bit stronger than it is for other scorers of his caliber, just because the way he scores is, or what helps him is his movement, his athleticism. I mean, he's insanely quick. If there's a small window, he'll burst. So I think, obviously, look, this is team defense in the summer league, so shouldn't be reading too much into it. But I think that he draws a little bit more gravity just because of how quickly, if you make a mistake against Jalen Green, it's like snap your fingers, he's at the rim. So I think there's a lower margin for error, and that shows in how teams play him. And then, of course, with his gravity, I'm looking at how can he punish it with passing, or how could the team potentially punish it? Because I really think that he can initiate a decent amount of plays at the NBA level due to his gravity and his passing. Just like kind of looking at the passes he's making, but also looking at like the process going into those passes and seeing potentially what he could become when he gets enough reps and all the passing craft comes together. And finally, I was looking at the core stability. This affects his on-ball defense, his handle, getting to the rim. Whether he loves to take massive step back. So can he actually like keep himself on balance and put up on balance jumpers? This, like, how does he come off screens? Can he turn tight corners? The core stability is kind of like an undertone that I saw with everything he was doing. Kind of ties it all together and makes him more effective in many ways. Sorry if that was a bit long.
No, totally fine. I mean, with guys, if you're not on, please mute because we can hear the typing. So I mean, this is a great summary of I would say, like, fairly complicated prospect. Like, it's straightforward in a lot of ways. It's also not as straightforward in others. I think that if he were the two guard, the classic two guard, would be pretty easy. It's like, yeah, he's got to knock down shots at a certain clip and keep him off ball. But there's obviously a bunch of different usage possibilities. So let's get into it.
All right, so yeah, first play here, could we potentially start at the beginning? So I like this. He comes off ball, he already starts in motion. As I said, he's not really great when he's creating from a standstill where he has to fake one way and go the other. So by getting him already in motion, like the deception he has to do is a lot easier. It's either you stop and go right, or you just don't do anything and continue and go left. If we could stay on the first play. And here also, so one of the core concerns is he can't round a tight corner. Like, we kind of, catches it like right on the 3-point line, and you'd think that trajectory would be around the arc. But I really like how Sengun he steps out and he accommodates the wide angle that Jalen Green takes. So that's kind of tailoring the screen a bit to him, letting him be as effective as possible. Then another good indicator for his handle is he sees a dig from Evan Mobley. He crosses over, and then he's going to make a read, which is pretty quick. As soon as the big comes over and like kind of gets ready to jump and loads, he swings it to Sengun. And that was really impressive, and just good indicators all around, because that's not the easiest pass to make. And also, there's some craft in that. It's not a traditional angle. So here, if we go back to when he takes the screen, I feel like often when, Jalen Green has a crossroad, he's going to take a screen. Yeah, pause it there, left or right. Like, he doesn't really sell
the other direction. Like here, he's going to reject the screen. He doesn't sometimes doesn't really sell that he's going to take the screen before he rejects it. But if you could go back a tiny bit, you can see actually he alters his stance a bit, which he doesn't always. But okay, yeah. So if you see there, you guys saw it there. He's going to stay straight up, and then when he decides to turn, he bends his knees and gets low. So if he's not going to, if you see he doesn't dribble hard with his right or anything to kind of run the defender into the screen, but he does lull him to sleep a bit before turning. So that's a nice handling craft. Nice to see him rejecting the screen. And then of course he makes the quick pass to the strong side corner. So that's an example of how I think he could potentially be used in the NBA. I don't know if they'll be helping off the strong side corner, but he doesn't have to make a fancy read. He doesn't have to, jump up, look one way, and then make a no look pass to someone in the paint. He just, he draws a bit of help because he's an insanely fast, insanely quick player. And if you don't deter him, he's going to be gone. And you give the ball to a teammate who has a closeout to work with, and you can, create offense from there. And when that pass is going to Kevin Porter Jr., who knows what can happen. I also like that he's willing to give it up early, even though he only has 2 feet inside the arc. Sometimes we say 2 feet in the paint, that's a skill, but he only really needs 2 feet in the arc to get the defense moving and set up his teammates with an advantage. So I like that as how an initiation would potentially look for Green. Yeah, here that was a pretty I know that's pretty creative what he does. He kind of puts his body parallel to the sideline, kind of crosses sideways like that, and then you see as soon as he gets can we replay that play again? So there, I think you see he doesn't take the screen with that. The angle's a bit wide, which kind of helps the defender get over. But you see, as soon as he gets a little bit of space, he's at the rim. No one can really stop him. So that kind of justifies the type of gravity he was seeing. Can we pause it here for a sec? So you can't actually see what he does there because it's cut off. But I'd watch Okoro because just before he comes off the screen, he jabs hard with his left foot to sell it. I just really like that attention to detail. So here, watch Okoro and then watch the screener. He's going to kind of adjust the screen to accommodate Green's wide angle coming off the screen. I think we can play it now. But then you see not being able to take sharp turns kind of hurts him because when he comes off the second screen, Okoro isn't really caught on the screen because he's just going all the way around. Instead of a curl that would set him up with a momentary 3-on-2. He runs off the first screen well, but because he doesn't curl it well, you're basically back to a static 5-on-5. Then he takes a screen and not the greatest decision there, but for a moment he had 3 guys keyed in on him. Wait, can we pause it at the end, just before he takes a shot? Yeah, I think yes. If you pause here, you see there's Josh Christopher. Maybe he's thinking about it, but that's a cut that that's an easy read that Jalen could probably see. And if you just look at the whole, he's pulled 3 guys right onto him. So if you scheme something around it, someone just cuts or makes himself available. I think Green can make those average reads. And I think once the more cohesive team context, team that actually practices, you'll be able to capitalize off that a lot. But he's playing in summer league, so
yeah. So I think I would like to talk about this curl action because I don't have a problem with how he reads it at all, and I think that more than anything, it's just his tendency when he gets into pressure situations just to retreat out. It's been that way for as long as I've seen him, and I think he retreats with the proper reaction of there's nothing there. You have 2 and a trailing guarding him and pulling away and getting back to a middle pick and roll to me is a good reaction. I mean, I don't know if other people feel like this is potentially wasting an action, but I would much rather have him pull it out in this specific circumstance. I know that that's been a critique I've had of his handle a lot is the repeated withdrawals. But this one makes sense because there's not that much there, and anything he would make would be basically from nothing.
Yeah, I think I agree, but like I don't know if he was thinking that, and I do think it was probably the right decision because it's pinched really tightly there. But if he did want to curl the screen, I don't know if he would be able to. So that's like what I was thinking of there in terms of the core stuff.
Yeah,
And
but
yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's just that
yeah.
there's like you don't want to curl versus a show. That's,
Yeah,
that's not
definitely.
like this is not the coverage you curl.
Yeah.
What do you guys think, Mark and Aneesh?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's not really an angle here, especially against that defense, for him to actually curl. And I think, like, kind of like we were talking about with Duarte earlier, sometimes it's better to just do the conservative thing and back out the way that he does here.
Yeah, I think technically, like you guys are saying, I think he technically could have been a little bit tighter with everything, but I don't think it would have really made a difference. Now it could have, but I think the first, like, getting into like the percent of things, if you want to do that, the outcome was probably the safer idea to just bounce out.
Well, yeah, and I'd also throw out too, instead of going up against Fiondu Kabengele in the NBA, that's Jared Allen, and he's not getting past Jared Allen on a curl unless he's really freaking lucky on it. So it's like
Yeah,
trying to look at
not
it
on a showed curl. Like if he
Yeah.
drops in the curl, absolutely go downhill at that big, but there's not the opportunity. Like I don't think that it's just that it's summer league or that it's fee versus being Joel or whoever may be in the league. It's that like that's the best solution when a big is high versus double versus like this is a stagger. Yeah, you just pull it out and then run your secondary action. Like I don't think advantage was lost or thrown away on this particular one.
Yeah, and then here I think Houston will, probably hopefully scheme something in to take advantage of all the attention he's getting. All right, here, so this play, this was a fun play. So he kind of has a whole route. I almost think of him as a receiver sometimes. He sets the screen, then he comes off the screen. Yeah, let's see this again. Let me see what I had in my notes. All right, so comes off. Yeah, there. That's where ideally it's a little bit tighter because he could maybe curl around for a 3, but he kind of like he flares out of it like there. Yeah, that's. I mean, Okoro does a good job fighting over, but I think if that's tighter, he could potentially set himself up. And then again, what I said about when he's going to reject a screen, he could go back. He doesn't sell it at all. Like he barely sells it, but like if he would like bend his knees and really jab his right foot hard, I mean there he does a small one, but I feel like if if perhaps a better core stability, just able to balance himself better, he'll hopefully be able to sell it harder. And then of course I like the willingness to just make quick one pass away and set his guy up within advantage in the corner. But I think there was, can you like go ahead and watch that one more time? I think there was something I had written down there. I think specifically, yeah, I wrote down that a 45 cut from the guy on the wing would have been nice. But yeah, that's it is what it is. I just like that Green's gravity does open up pretty significant cutting windows for teammates. So here, this play was pretty electrifying when I saw it. I like that, I said he doesn't have the best craft when he needs to run guys into screens, but given that he already has a running start, it's not like he has to choose to fake one direction, then go the other. Like the way he's dribbling and kind of ready to explode, like the guy already assumes he's going right. So all you really have to do is go left. Then here he does the step back hang dribble. What really impressed me is how he takes a massive step back, but his jumper is just straight up and down, like absolutely no lean at all. And of course, it looks good. I mean, I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
like the process behind that step back.
Lobbing it to the group.
Well, I mean, yeah, kind of going off of it, I love the in and out that he does at the end here. Kind of just makes Lamar Stevens question a little bit what's happening, because he's going, it seems like he's going to just come right at him, but just throwing in little hesitations like that, and like just stuttering, making things like a little bit more confusing. Like, I love that. And the fact that, I mean, he even hits that is kind of ridiculous considering how well it's covered.
Yeah, just about that. So if you see it from a different angle, it was not a contested shot. It looks contested, but he's already way in the air by the time a hand comes, and like it's not even in his vision at all. So it's really it's not. I mean, it's not like a wide open shot. But
yeah, for sure. But I mean, like he's fairly well crowded. Like,
yeah, just not as bad as it looks on TV. And that's like legit. He's like two guys like right on him after the pick and roll, just because I feel like they're a little afraid to leave Green, and that indecision, because you can't really like take too long to make your decision, because he's so quick. I think maybe he'll saddle his defenders with indecision a bit in the league.
Mark, you were saying?
No, I just mean like having the stutter, like adding in like the. I mean, we see a lot of guys who are so good straight line, which Jalen Green is maybe the best straight line driver in this class. Adding in little things like that, just timing, manipulating timing to throw off what guys are thinking about what you can do is huge. And the energy transfer too is kind of ridiculous on the step back. Like it's completely clean. Like it's just that. I mean, you kind of just guffaw at it. That's what happens when you look at a guy who gets drafted number 2 overall.
Aneesh?
Yeah, I just wanted to say my favorite part is Lamar Stevens' feet going in directions that doesn't make any sense for him to go in this possession, and that's purely based on Green, and it happens multiple times. I thought that was good for Green, and obviously it's like a funny thing to see.
Yeah, in and out, hang, step back with exactly one dribble is extremely hard. That is such a difficult forward combination.
Yeah, he's doing the fake press corner bit where you jab and then you jab in a direction that doesn't make any sense, and yeah, that's always a good sign for the offensive player.
All right, so here I think this was my favorite Jalen Green defensive possession. I think an issue he had, like even though he tries to focus, like he can sometimes like zone in on one or two aspects of the play and just miss the rest. So here I like that he seems pretty aware of what's going on. He comes a bit closer because he sees the post up. He's aware of the post up and his man, which for him sometimes being aware of two things is like the breaking point, but he's also aware of the cut there. And then here he's going to stunt. And for me, that recovery was insane. Like the second he gets the ball, his feet, Green's feet are already like back to mirror the guy on offense. Like I don't know, I don't think many players are able to stunt and recover that fast. And like kind of it's like it's going to be like he's bigger than he really is on defense just because he covers so much ground so quickly. And I also like that he stays aware of everything the whole time if something were to happen. I mean, like yeah, he moves his feet so quickly. I guess the guys who watch a lot of basketball, do you guys think that that's like standout? I guess a standout recovery or no?
I mean, I would say that like the quickness comes through in the same way it does on his first step and it does the first step of his closeouts. Like those are the same chain of muscles, the same reactions. Like it makes a lot of sense that those two things are related, and that often the people who struggle to get by people are also people who struggle to take tremendously quick first steps coming from midline to a closeout.
Yeah, so that's why I think his defense could be pretty cool. So here, let's roll this. I guess so. There, he created a bit of, I think, yeah, back to when he has the ball on the sideline. If we could go there, I
feel like he has when he we can go back. When he crosses back, I mean when he does like the like hezzy and now step back, I feel like he has some space to cross back over like here. I feel like he can cross back over left and try to take that route to the rim because there's no one in like on his side at all. No defender in the corner, but even then it's fine. He gets like a foot 2 feet inside the perimeter and he kicks it out to a pretty good three. And when I was talking about gravity, like this is what I say, like for some people it's like getting 2 feet in the paint. For Green, it's like, at least in summer league team defense, it's really just getting 2 feet inside the perimeter, which I think is kind of insane. Yeah. And then I think was there a second part of the?
No, this is
Here. So he goes off, shoot another one of the step backs. He's leaning a bit, but again, like it's kind of similar to the other one we saw. Like that's not easy to pull off at all. Wait, did I say anything about his handle here? No, that's good. So here he back cuts the screen, which is nice. Nice to see. He's going to bring it back out. Here's when his handle's bad. He's like he's faced up basically. He has to beat his guy, and he just does like what is that? A spider dribble. His body's not moving. He's just dribbling the ball. He looks like some like ball is life highlight. Like it's not great. Which that's his weakness. Like a standstill. He just doesn't have a lot. Because he's not that comfortable, manipulating parts of his body to sell a direction. Like he's not really selling anything there, and he kind of takes a tough jumper. Here, this the pick and roll with Sengun. I mean, I know. Do you guys have anything to say about that handling sequence there, where we kind of lost it, just going back and forth between the legs?
Hey, the small space handle is a long-term concern. It's one of the most important concerns for him is that like he's most comfortable in big spaces. When you shrink space down, he can't get outside of his body. He can't rip moves, and he doesn't necessarily like that condensed space. And you get far more mistakes there than you get anywhere else.
Yeah, I think he's more comfortable selling a move when he's already on the move, because then like the initial move is already there. All right, so but anyway, to this play, I like it's nice and early. He gives the ball to Sengun in a spot where he's going to draw the help from Okoro momentary 3-on-2. Then I love that he's like, this is one of the examples that I said, like how Jalen Green could play multiple parts in the same possession. He starts by initiating this, and his gravity gives gives it to Sengun with pretty good position. If we could stay on that play. And then, I love the cut. He's going to be dangerous cutter. And here, this is tailor made for him. He has a wide open wing. He's going to take a wide route. And I love the processing too. It's out of balance. The second he gets the ball is going to the open shooter. I like that he'd already mapped out the court there, and he got the ball, saw the help, and knew what he was going to do quickly. And like just like that, making a quick decision like that makes me really optimistic for all the other areas where of his game where quick decision making could be applied. So even though it didn't count, that was really cool to see. How does this start? Oh yeah. All right, so here I think there was. Let's play. Sorry, I got a bit lost. All right, there, that was where that's where the core stability and overall balance and strength can become kind of an issue. I know it's harder going to your right and your left, but he's going right and the air ball is left. Like that kind of seems connected. I mean, PD, you're a solid shot doctor, so do you have anything to say about that leaning jump shot?
I mean, I think that he gives into the leaning too much. He over trusts, in my opinion, his self-organization, and I just like to see a little better shot prep, and a little better trying to make everything look uniform. on a shot by shot basis. In summer league, it's difficult to argue against the results, but I just don't think that those results have been entirely standardized, and that his bad days look very similar, where the legs are flying out. The balance is lost, and he takes more fadeaways than you would want out of shots that don't necessarily have to be them, just by how he compares.
Yeah. All right. The next play now, I guess. So this, after the shot. So, all right, this play, I just want to focus on like what he's doing before he gets the ball. I love that they're getting him in motion before this screen is set, because one, he's just a quick guy. He's very hard to keep up with, but also it simplifies like the decision around the screen that has to be made, whether he's going to take it or reject it. He can just focus on like kind of either hesitation, dribbles, like something like that, and loses man that way, or he can just keep going full speed. He slowed down before catching it and then accelerated again. I don't know if you think that was on purpose or if that was just he didn't feel comfortable catching it in stride, but that just stood out to me. I don't have opinions on it either way, but if you guys do, I'd like to hear that. And slowing down for the catch.
I mean, for me, the thing that stands out most is the difference between this and Cam Thomas. Where like Cam Thomas was catching these already going downhill, and was catching them about at the 3-point line, and Jalen Green is catching these almost a half court, and he's not putting himself in a position to win because now he has to go farther and go into what's likely going to be a more condensed defense that has had more time to react. Mark, I know that you share my disdain for half-court offenses that start so high. Does this strike that same nerve for you?
Yeah, like exactly like you're mentioning, and it's the same thing as with the screens. Like he's so athletic and capable of covering that distance, but like he in some ways could really benefit from taking a page out of Cam Thomas's book. Like, okay, well, if you're 5 feet closer, maybe you don't have to run into Evan Mobley and he has to be farther back, or he's going to be positioned differently, and it's going to allow you to bend the defense in a different way. Like, I agree. I'm not really a fan of, unless you're like coming out of transition or something. Yeah. Coming into a set this high up just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and I think that the set's not designed that way. Like, just to be 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I do not think it is supposed to be that way. I think that this is...
Well, yeah, Anthony Lamb looks like, dude, why are we doing this? Like, when he comes to set the screen, like, he's not at the level yet. And it feels kind of like he's not supposed to be doing this.
This feels like a cut that he ballooned, and, like, he ballooned the cut most likely because, running full speed, core stability, centrifugal motion, obviously carrying him backwards. But, these are, like, the little things where, like, yes, he still gets the corner and gets a good look at a layup, despite the fact that like he should not have.
Yeah, so that's where being able to make a tighter turn would be a lot easier. And then if I can just focus on the move he makes to score here, I also like how the screen is kind of shifted to give him a more north-south thing. So that like hesitation move freezes Mobley just enough. As I said, he gets a little bit of an advantage. He's going to burst all the way to the rim. And nice finish, same hand, same foot, inside hand. And that's like Evan Mobley, he just blew by, not like Indiana Pacers or Roy Hibbert. So that was pretty impressive to me. Here, this defensive play, if you can rewind from the beginning, at least to me, what I saw, he looked so locked in on the ball handler that he doesn't even realize that there's a screen there until it's too late, which is why the navigation is, he doesn't really set himself up properly to navigate the screen. And then he goes for a gamble, I feel like kind of to almost overcompensate for not being aware of the screen. I mean, maybe you guys have a different diagnosis of why he missed that, but I thought he just like was so locked in on the on-ball action there that he kind of was late to recognize the screen on the first play. Any thoughts on why he was late on the off-ball screen?
Yeah, he just took a bad route.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, and here, how does it start again? So yeah, I think he kind of gets caught on the screen. I mean, I know that's not an NBA ball handler, but he recovers pretty well, getting in front of him, and then here, he moves a tiny bit. Strong side corner usually don't help on that in the NBA. But I don't wonder if Jalen Green could become one of like the rare strong side corner helpers, just because he can cover so much ground so quickly. Like, I mean, I think he contributes. Obviously, the point of attack defender was doing a good job, but I think he contributes a little bit to stopping that drive there, and that's just pretty enticing for me because he's engaged. Yeah.
I have.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like you were mentioning, like obviously not helping strong side or whatever, but something that I noticed for him, like as soon as he's out of the action, like as soon as his man passes the ball out, he just gets straight up out of an athletic stance. So maybe he is helping on this if he doesn't do that. Like I think that's something that even watching him in the G League, you see, like if he's involved in an action, he's good and he's engaged, but it's just keeping that engagement level the entire time because maybe he is impacting this. And regardless, I mean, like this is a pretty rough jump shot from Isaac Okoro. And part of that is having the just being there. But yeah, like if he's got that continuous ability to be in an athletic stance, I think maybe you are seeing some of that help.
I think the thing for me that I find a little bit scary with him is that he strong side helps and then stays there.
Yeah.
If Okoro pivots, this is a wide open three that Green has nothing he can do about it because he doesn't recognize that the defender's 3 steps into a shake. So I think that like strong side help is on the cards, but like this can't happen because like in the NBA, this is already 3 points on the board because he's stuck instead of a dig. He's currently doubling, which again, like we're talking about a teenager. Like teenagers are not good on defense. That's a rule. And especially with the minutia of handling something as complex as helping outside of responsibility, outside of scheme, and doing so responsibly. But I think that there is a pathway given his quickness and his ability to cover space, but it can't kind of look like this.
Yeah, it's kind of when he focuses on one thing and loses focus of the other. So here to start this playoff, he sees the Mobley role. He reacts to that. He goes over there well. He's focusing on the ball, focusing on Mobley, focusing on his man. Then you'll see he kind of like locks in once the ball is entered into the post, he locks in, he opens up, locks in on the on-ball action, and his man's going to cut right in front of him. And he does look up because, the ball goes out of bounds, but I don't know if he would have caught that cut in time. And that's just some of like the perplexing, like, or very narrow focus that he seems to sometimes have. I don't know if you guys have the same diagnosis for that play or not.
Aneesh?
No, yeah, I think that is there's like the positives and negatives. Like you see all the potential that he could be at least a positive defender on that end, but it's just working out all the youth kinks that happen due to being not only a teenage basketball player playing in the but also being as profile as him, where you aren't really taught defense at that kind of level. Very, very few people, like even in high school basketball, are taught that level, much less someone with his caliber of offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's pretty common for young guys to, go to spots and then stop running the operating systems when they get there. We saw Josh Cade do that for a year, where he just got to spots and was just like, okay, like I'm where I'm supposed to be. And we kind of just saw the same thing from Jalen Green, where he got to his spot and then didn't continue to do the searches that he needs to and the adjustments that he needs to once he got there. All right, final thoughts on our current true shooting champion at 70. Things that you came away from, differences, just anything that popped out during the Jalen Green experience.
I was super impressed with Jalen Green. He was a big riser throughout the draft for me. Just based on I already had him, decently high, but I was continually more seeing his his growth, his development curve, and I even think I saw some things that I didn't see in the G League, which is always good to see. And obviously, it's a small sample size, so you don't want to put too much stock into it. And as a shoot first guard with a massive physical advantage creation, massive advantage in advantage creation. I just realized I said advantage twice. This is his setting where he's going to shine, but I still thought there were a lot of positives, and I look forward to seeing a lot of I feel even more optimistic about his rookie year in Houston than I did before summer league.
Mark?
Yeah, I don't have anything crazy intuitive to say other than I really just cannot wait to see his first dunk in the NBA. I think he's going to be one of probably the 10 best dunkers in the league for a decent amount of time. So
That's conservative.
Yeah, I mean, like within a relative amount of time, he's going to be there. I can't wait, man. Like that's again, Aneesh covered all the bases with the smart stuff to say. I just can't wait to see him dunk in the NBA because it's going to be incredible.
Also, just one more thing. He has made me consider growing my hair out.
Important.
So,
trendsetter.
Yeah.
That's why you're trying to grow your hair out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that he confirmed a lot of what I thought with, in my evaluation. I feel like this was also seeing how the G League translated for Green and Kuminga. They seemed a little bit more comfortable than basically every other rookie, which I found to be really interesting. I think it's just having played dudes who are 33 years old before. In a competitive setting is a really valuable thing. Being coached by NBA coaches, but it is a different thing than the lowest. It's not better or worse. It's just different. I thought there was a really high level of comfort. I think that the shot making is just unsustainable. Otherwise, he'd basically be the greatest off the dribble shot maker of all time, and for his size. But I think overall it was fairly representative. I mean, the defense is obviously a thing that needs to be worked on. The passing I didn't love. I thought that there was going to be a touch more development in the interim between the G League night finishing and here, given his comfort level. I thought he made okay reads, but I just wanted to see him try more. I thought he generally did the same stuff that we had seen in the G League, which is, I would say positive from where he was as a senior in high school. But I thought there was another level, knowing that he had that little bit of baked-in advantage. All right, we good to move on? Sounds good. All right,
Yep.
Aneesh, tell me about the areas of attention that you want to talk about with one Cade Cunningham.
Okay, so first, I wanted to talk about his shooting, specifically the mindset that came with it during summer league. Also want to talk about his advantage creation, specifically the first step. Consequently, wanted to talk about his shift in terms of his handle and how that develops over time. Also wanted to touch on his defense. Never going to be the greatest environment, but just wanted to see how that was. And then the last one is looking at his processing in this specific setting.
Yeah, I think I would like to talk about 4 and 5 a little bit more, because I feel like they can come off as a little different than maybe what other people would have. I feel like shooting mindset's pretty straightforward. Is he going to revert back now that he's not in a situation where he has to have a 70 usage or whatever he had at Oklahoma State? But number 4 is that Cade is a person who really thinks about basketball from a systems perspective, and you could see especially in his last game or so, that the frustration of being just make this rotation, this is the next thing, and just because it's summer league, it's really difficult to defend with a fully implemented scheme, because guys don't know each other, they don't always speak, maybe they're from other leagues, they don't speak the same languages in terms of literal languages, but also the same basketball languages. Or for somebody something is ice, for somebody it's a drop. The terminology is hard to suss out in 3 games without a ton of practice. And then the last one is that is the inverse of that, is that he loves to churn reads, understanding how a defense is going to handle them, and you can't really do that if people aren't executing the scheme. And he's just never been a guy who's thrived in more loose settings. especially with how he wants to play. Like going back to, I feel like even when AE would get a little bit sloppier with Texas Titans, I just didn't feel like that was the peak version of Cade, which is a guy who just like wants to go through read after read after read and pick a defense apart surgically. So yeah, those were certainly I think important things, and also things that are very specific to the archetype that he is. Like Jalen Green, we kind of saw the opposite of, like, he's a guy who Summer League really flatters. Not that he isn't an awesome prospect, but like his game is suited to recognizing those advantages and just hitting the gas pedal as hard as possible. Cade kind of just wants to galaxy brain everything.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into some clips.
Okay, so first thing, they kind of run the pitch and go with him, and Jalen Green makes a mistake of going under the screen, and Cade makes him pay. I think it's interesting that they are running him kind of off movement, similar to Green, where they're trying to get him into movement so he can maybe to make some of those standstill burst issues. I don't think it's a massive issue, but it is. I'm not gonna act like he's like crazy great at it. And so they're doing that. And I thought it was interesting, first of all, that they were going with Killian as like the standstill guy and then Cade going off ball rather than vice versa. That might be a little bit of a rookie versus sophomore thing, but I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I think it's important to show that, like, if you go under the screen, he's going to make you pay. We saw the shooting at Oklahoma State. Seems to have translated. And so, yeah, if he can get that pull up, if he can continue to make that pull up as good as it seems good, like it's going to be, like it's going to make those stationary or those standstill burst issue, first step, whatever you want to call it, it's going to make that much easier to mitigate.
What jumps out to me is still that his jumper is really arm powered.
Yeah.
Like, it's just watching the energy transfer, and it's still not like phenomenal. Like it's much better than it used to be, but just like there's a section where the legs and the arms don't feel like they meet. And I'm really interested in seeing how this looks over the next couple of years. You can see it on the replay, where it's just like the legs are first, hops into it nice and good, up, and then there's just a half second, and then he pushes with the arms. And I just want that to get a little more cleaned out.
Yeah. There was a couple of clips that I left out on the cutting room floor regarding this, but yeah, I think there's a couple more plays where, like, you can see specifically when he's like going off of like semi-uncomfortable or semi-new positions that he's like jumping. He's getting power off of. He really relies on those arms, and it can lead to a lot of short misses.
Give me one moment. My computer just did a weird thing.
No worries.
Uncertain of why. I mean, how have you generally found the Cade Cunningham shooting development in terms of, okay, I think we're back, in terms of like mechanics? Because I mean, I didn't think it was that different from Oklahoma State to. One moment. Sorry, I just have to make some adjustments on the streamable page. How have you found the adjustments from Montverde, Oklahoma State, and with the adjustments that were made there? Like, do you find it to be a thing that, like, he rebuilt it, or how do you think the best way to handle that was, or how do you think that was handled?
I think it was more of a cleaning kind of thing. I obviously there were things that were changed, but I don't think it was anything major. And I think because it was never like major issues. It was just some minor stuff that was ending up causing some bigger variance than expected. So I think the way they went about it was correct, because the touch was always there. The form was decent enough. There wasn't, like I'm saying before, it wasn't like he was doing anything like completely wacky. So I don't have any issues with it. And then like people mentioned, your number one pick, you're maybe not as focused on the basketball aspect of the draft. when it comes to draft. So maybe there might have been some that might be a reason for stagnation. I don't want to speculate too much, but yeah, I'm assuming that it's a pretty visible fix. So I'm assuming if I can see it, there will be NBA teams who and his trainers who will be able to work with him on it and get it fixed fairly easily.
Okay, I have Streamable back. Thank you for chewing some good scenery.
Yeah, I tried my best.
Yeah, A1, but one of the best to ever do it. Okay, let me mirror this for you guys. Back on, and we will have everything going. Again, it's so nice when these are the technical concerns we have, right? It's not like do sound editing live on air while a whole bunch of people are like, dude, please fix it. I'm like, oh, thanks. I wasn't trying before. Okay, we're good. Everybody seen it? Chat, we're seeing it. We are currently, everybody's looking at Cade Cunningham about to dribble up the court. I think this is the pistol action. Okay. No, this is not. Okay, I'm a little too far ahead in the game. Yep. Okay, now here we are. Beautiful.
Yeah, so this one, he comes off the pick and roll, loses the handle a little bit on that little hesitation, and that combined with his not great burst allows Sengun to time that up decently and get the block. He seemed to try to hit that second gear. I will say Jalen Green did trip him a bit, but also like you could see that like there isn't any, like he tried to burst out and there wasn't really much more he could get. And so that kind of allowed Sengun to play a little bit more in the middle than otherwise. Because if he had that like real turbo gear, Sengun would have had to help over. Would have been an easy pass because he's a very 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 good passer. So, and again, I'm hoping that it's just not because he was tripped that he couldn't get there, but I'm fairly confident that it wouldn't have been there regardless.
So, I think one of the most disappointing things with Cade from this summer league was his approach on screens. Everybody can hear me? Just to double check.
I can.
Yeah, I know you guys can. I'm just double checking with chat.
Head. Yeah.
Because I'm currently not seeing it on, like on my bars are not doing it. Okay, cool. Thank you. Just a weird glitch where my computer went black. Whatever. His screen approach has been really poor. In high school, he was really good at putting a shoulder into people on like slot pick and rolls, going shoulder, down, bumping them back, and then running them into a screen. And I feel like that was because teams were going under on all these screens, and you needed to force the more interaction with the screen. And I feel like since the shooting has come, he's kind of abandoned some of that. And over, I've seen people just get these, like, they can just jump in between these screens, and he does not get the same penetration angles, which is a problem when you don't have the first step and you don't have the wiggle. So I think that a return to the commitment to screen preparation and making sure that his defender gets hit by it on every single time or has to alter their angle is going to be essential for him.
Yeah, totally. And then I think it's a good time to bring it up now. I think it's like he always looked big for high school and college, and now against like even slightly better competition, you can see him like looking a tiny bit smaller. Like for example, like there'll be a possession later against him, like him against Justin Anderson, who's obviously a complete tank, and you can see like, oh, this is a 19, 20-year-old versus a grown man.
He also like slimmed down a whole bunch. He's at like 190 right now.
Yeah.
Which is really which is certainly like I like it from a mobility. He clearly doesn't have a problem adding weight, but it's certainly like he looks a lot smaller than college, in part because he's like a lot smaller than he was at college.
Okay.
Yeah, like I don't love this screen navigation. It just doesn't set it up that well, and it allows the switches that shouldn't be allowed to happen. Still gets a layup, but like I feel like this could have happened a touch quicker.
Yeah, and I think this is the layup, right? Yeah. I think one thing to note is that like the way he Noah talked about how Jalen Green doesn't sell the change of direction very well. And I think Cade does that really well, despite not having any of the other physical tools. I thought that was interesting. And then later you'll see like just a great sequence by him. Every every time you watch Cade, you'll have at least one of these sequences where like 3, 4, 5 plays in a row where he's like leading it, really making some A+ impact, all that kind of stuff, and he gets a layup, gets a stunt, and great instincts where he gets a steal, able to pass for the assist, and then traps Green, forces the turnover. It's just like these are the type of plays that make him, like, sequences that make him such a high impact player, both offensively, defensively. Shows his well-roundedness and everything.
Yeah, and you can just see that there's not a really big, there's not really a super scheme here. Like just watching it by possession. They're very much communicating. Like they have ideas, but it's not like everyone's glued into place. And just watching him communicate is really fun.
Yeah, it just shows how smart of a basketball player he is, straight up. Like there's no other way to put it. And then one thing. People say, I hope there's no one here that thinks Cade doesn't have the mentality. I promise you, Cade is that dude. He is a complete dog. I promise. Like, and you can see it visibly on this sequence.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a mystery that he definitely played an extra game to try to go against Deuce McBride again. Like he could have played 2 games, and he was like, nope. I remember how that. I think it was the first West Virginia game where he had like not even real trouble. But he's just like, this cannot stand. It's like, well, it's a 36 overall pick, like, man. He's like, well, he has hype right now. Like you could tell that it bothered him, and he just like took it super personal. And yeah, that's not normal.
Yeah, so just like we've had this discussion. Just because people don't show it all the time doesn't mean they're not built like that.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So talk to me about how you would like him as a ball handler to approach these drag screens and setting them up, and like how a guy with a limited wiggle can handle this stuff.
Yeah, so I think what he tried to do here, he tried to really create some downhill momentum to where Anderson would be like really going hard against him going at the rim, and then snatch back, be tight, and then gets that elbowish jumper. And number one, the downhill momentum just wasn't there, and then also the snatch kind of made it a little bit. Was it a snatch? I just want to make sure.
No, it's just
it wasn't a snatch. Sorry. Yes, the retreat wasn't like the retreat kind of cancels out anything. I do appreciate that he kind of understood. I think he understood that. He's like, okay, this might not amount to much. Let's just reset something. But yeah, I would like him to go a little bit harder at the rim. It's hard with Anderson because he's such a physical guy and an absolute tank. But yeah, I would like him to have, like you said, be a little bit more physical with his body and his shoulders, and try to create a little bit more momentum going downhill so he can create those wins passing or otherwise for himself.
Yeah, I think he misdiagnoses this also. We have a super high hedge or a show or whatever, and the big immediately slips it, and there's like obviously a second pick and roll. And I think that he thinks that Jalen's going to step up so that he can like get that sort of like triangle action with the lifting shooter. And it just doesn't happen. Like Jalen just drops. And so I think that he tried to process his way out of this one. It didn't work. And then he goes and runs the middle pick and roll again. So it's certainly one of the issues with him is like when things break down, like he doesn't have as many tools to just like get simple stuff. And instead he comes back to the offense and gets a good look that, Evans Oucha almost knocks down.
Yeah. All right. What's the, all right. So this is one of my favorite plays of the game. You can see Green gets caught a little bit by screen. It's a good screen. Also Green kind of died on it a little bit, but he gets him with the in and out as well, freezes Sengun, and then goes right at his chest and finishes through him. That's exactly what you want to see, and this is perfect from him. Like he did just about everything right. He also could have, if he wanted to, also had Killian weak side corner, but against Sengun, I feel confident he can attack him and finish well and score a good amount of plays, and I think he feels the same way. So. Mm-hmm. Good to see that. Obviously, good to see the aggressiveness and confidence, which he doesn't really have a problem with. But next play, he leads. I like how he leads, kind of leads Jalen Green into it, and then just right there. Getting back to, I like how he sells direction really well. Gets his defense. He's thinking he's going one way, and then and even though the shift or the wiggle, whatever you want to call it, isn't elite, like because he sells everything so well, it opens those windows up a little more for him, and that kind of development will be imperative as he continues into his NBA career, and especially like let's say the burst never gets to a great level, but yeah. And then, yep, it's paused here for a good moment, for a good reason. Like you can see the how arm heavy his shot is, and you can, yeah, and that's not ideal.
No, you'd want it's just all like there's no butt on it. You can see that he's pushing it. He's pushing it with his his toes and his hands or in his upper body exclusively. I do like how quickly he self-organizes though. That's really positive for me.
Yeah. Once he caught the wraparound, it was pretty easy into that, which is good. But obviously, it goes in. I think, right? Yeah, It goes in, but it's not great.
Yeah. I think that this is far more about Jalen Green like mistiming a gamble, like than like Cade doing particularly well. For me, the jumper is the most meaningful part of the entire thing. The setup and the jumper, what happens in the middle with the behind the back is not really whatever.
Interesting. Okay. Let me see. This one is, I want to say this is another shooting thing, and you can see the reliance on the arms. Yeah, and then basically, I think I mentioned it before. Just like coming up from, it's not straight pull-ups and not catch and shoot. You can see he relies even more on those arms, just because he's still working on organizing a little bit and getting that complete fluid energy transfer. So I think as he, that's fine in my opinion. Like that's something that can be fixed with the offseason development. His rookie year, obviously, so he has time to get that going. But yeah, that's probably something he's going to have to work on, just understanding how to transfer energy correctly from different points in different places, I guess. And then this is a very, very, very good defensive sequence for him. It's a little bit above the nail, but he kind of prevents the downhill from the middle from, I think, Kyrie Thomas. Good job of meeting Justin Anderson at his spot, knowing that he's not a shooter, and cuts off his drive there, and then hard closeout against was it Anthony Lamb. I would have preferred him to go harder because if I remember correctly, Anthony Lamb is the kind of guy you want him to. You don't want him to shoot. Just you want to let him get into try to attack and blow by, and then just kind of take your medicine off of that. And I thought he was a little bit soft, but otherwise, I thought it was a really good defensive possession from him.
Mark, what jumps out to you on this one?
I don't really part of it is difficult, but the angle to Justin Anderson is not great. And that has him. That's why I think he kind of overcorrects a little bit on the angle to come back at Anthony Lamb on this.
No, anything that strikes you on this one?
Yeah, I'm back. I know. I think he wanted to play like the passing lane there, but I think he's a bit too high up just because he's not the quickest guy in the world. So perhaps if he's like kind of a step or two lower, he could kind of go to people instead of having to like run or slide sideways. So his margin for error is higher because that could get burned by a quicker guy. Like for example, if that happened to be Jalen Green, I mean Jalen Green is an outlier case, but he'd be gone. So I think maybe like I love the thought there and stuff, but maybe he wants to take one step back and just be a bit lower. Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate how. Go ahead.
I will say, like, yeah, especially because it is Kyrie Thomas, who's not someone you really, really need to sell to pull out against. You can be a little bit back.
I mean, I appreciate that we get a chance to say like this MF playing zone. Because I understand the lineup that they're playing against is probably a good zone one, and you can see how Cade is always trying to guard two people. Like every single part of this, he's trying to take up as many spaces as possible. It's just like on this one, he's closing out and also trying to recover to the stunt because like look how low the bottom defender is. It's like the next rotation would be either your center or this low man, and so he is trying to cause a hesitation because again summer league is a difficult place to play zone.
Yeah, No, that's a good point. I didn't even realize he was trying to cover 2 people on that Lamb closeout too. So
Yeah, he's trying to get that one more pass, and so he's just trying to bait him, knowing that like he's probably not going to close out on 100%, and if it is a one more, then like the defense is screwed. But
got you. Here he picks off a loose ball, and then it is you can see the lack of wiggle against an NBA defender in Anderson. It just, I also think that he sees Garza mid shot, and it's always good for him to make that in-air adjustment. But I'm curious why he didn't hit Sekou, because he was right there, and I'm pretty sure he saw him. So,
I mean, is that? Would you rather have a contested Cade floater or a Sekou 3? I'm asking that seriously.
Me personally, I mean, probably a Cade floater.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same place. I mean, I think the read is to Luka. But I also like that pass is probably behind the back, and there's a weak side dig. It's just like, this is just bad process. It all comes from reading. To me, what I see is that it all comes there. Like, why are you?
Yeah.
You're going outside in Euro step when there's 3 defenders there. Like, to me, this should have been the opposite, where you settle in and out and then go inside
like a
out Euro.
Or something like.
Oh, just in and out with the right, and then inside out Euro. If you're going to stick with that same move structure, because then you're moving away from the cluster.
Got you. Yeah, that works too.
It's just it to me, that's all fruit from the poison tree of that decision at the beginning. And like, there was no way this was going to end well, because he made the wrong choice attacking downhill against strength when he needed to force this defense to rotate.
Yeah, and do you think that? So then, it's also, it doesn't really have anything to do with this wiggle? Like, I know that you're saying that's like a main part of it is the decision to you went with the wrong move, basically. But do you think the wiggle had anything to do with it?
Yeah, I think that the wiggle is why he's move limited.
Okay.
Like, if he had more wiggle, he had more options. Like, I mean, like, if this is Kevin Porter Jr., he's flipping it to that left hand. This is going to be like that insane behind the back he likes.
Yeah.
And it's just because he's wiggle limited, he only has a couple of options off that left hand in and out, and you get the stuff like this. So, I mean, it's not that like he made a bad decision, so the wiggle doesn't matter. It's that the wiggle influenced the amount of moves he has. The amount of moves he has caused this decision. This decision causes the shot that gets punched.
Okay,
that's my perception reading. I mean, if you guys have a different understanding, like, by all means, like, I love different viewpoints, but
I skipped the middle point. I just went wiggle to the passing. I didn't go with the dribble move in between, but that makes sense. All right, so this possession is one of his better defensive plays. I think it also shows, like, I guess, his misutilization. He shouldn't be on the point of attack, especially against a guy like Green. But I do appreciate he's got caught a little bit, stayed in the play, blocked a shot, and then had a good hard closeout after. Could you run it back one more time? Because there's something I think I missed.
Full speed or half speed?
Half speed, please.
Okay, we were watching half speed.
Oh, okay, sorry. Anyways. So yeah, you can see him kind of icing the screen. I don't know. I don't remember exactly if that was.
He was pushing downhill.
Yeah. Blocks in front, which is good, and then hard at the closeout, which is cool. He plays hard, awesome. But yeah, I think I just wanted to talk about, like, I don't think he should have been point of attack this much during the game. And
I like it to see, like, to me, I think that it is the right decision to downhill Jalen Green. I mean, this is probably a point of view. Like, would you rather have him be uphill if he is guarding him?
Oh no! I don't have a problem with the decision. I just don't think putting him at the point of attack this much is ever gonna be a good idea in the NBA. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with this coverage at all. He fights over.
No.
And then
I don't
he's
have
able to
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
No, it was just more of a
Yeah.
Just my opinion, I personally am fine with Cade at point of attack, especially the way that Detroit's built. Like, I don't love Sadiq on smaller guys. Like, I think he's a little bit better defending bigger wings. Considering how quick Jalen is, I think it makes sense having Cade on him. Like, I'm not trying to totally refute where you're at, but I think with like the way that Detroit has everything set up, they're just going to be able to have at least 2 or 3 guys who can handle multiple wings. Pretty much on court at any time. Like Josh Jackson, Hamidou Diallo, like they have a lot of like size guys who are going to be variable and able to do stuff. Like I think they're going to have him off ball more, but my interpretation from this game was that Cade asked to take Jalen Green, or not asked.
Yeah.
Yes. Cade wanted to take Jalen. Like this was not like Detroit saying you're going to be a point of attack guy. Like it felt like Cade took this matchup very seriously and personally.
I will say that him being at 185, like we talked about this with Franz, with Zay, where it's like if he's going to be lighter, I think that it's really valuable to try to put more movement skills on him and like try him at point of attacking against smaller guys. Mm-hmm. And then you can always just add more bulk and move him off ball. Because like he has the technique to do both. It's just a matter of like, will his hips and foot speed let him? And I think that it's much easier for me to do the mobility first. If that doesn't work, you can always bulk later because we've seen what he can do with bulk. Like that's much easier. Where if you fail with bulk, it's really hard to slim down and add mobility skills like 24, 23. So to me, this seems like this is my preferred developmental bet. Like the technique is still solid. Like I mean, like his technique has never really been a concern. It's just like how much is he going to be able to actually navigate this stuff? And this is better than it was, I would say at Oklahoma State and a little bit of Montverde against quick guys. I'm curious to see how they continue this path forward.
Yeah, again, I don't have any problems with the actual technique. I had some concerns about that, but this is the different play, right? Yeah. Again, I think it's good that he kept late switching. That it's not a soft switch, which is never good. And then this pinpoint pass we'll talk about later. But yeah, I think when he does get caught, kind of trails and kind of gives like a kind of in between both Green and KJ Martin, and so kind of stops Green, and so it kind of and then forces him to stumble, and then somehow ends up in an open 3 for reasons that are out of their control.
One of my favorite Cade things is he always looks for box outs every single time. Like anytime a shot goes up, a fun thing to do is just look at Cade, and you'll see him at the very least scan. Whatever coach it is that instilled that in him, whether that's his high school coaches back in Texas, whether that's his AAU coaches, whether that's Montverde, whether that's Oklahoma State. Like somebody at some point was like, "Some bad things will happen to you if you do not box out. Like do not end up on a highlight tape." And it is ingrained to him to the point that like even shots where he's not the rebound is not going to go to him. You can still see him like scanning for the nearest guy that he should put a body on.
And then you see another. This is Cade. He makes really good passes consistently, and even though Sekou misses the layup, it does not take away at all from the excellent pass that Cade made. Mark, what you were saying?
Oh, I was just Sekou, man. That I was just groaning at that. That's a tough scene, man.
Yeah, I think he also has another step, like legally, in when he catches this, depending on when he times it.
I see.
1, 2. Yeah,
he might have gotten away with it, depending, but
yeah. Again, steal steps on the way in. This one's really fun. The missed rotation.
Yeah, he obviously should have been a. Yeah, he just. I don't know what to say. It was just not good.
I think I actually have the answer to this one. Does anybody have one before I give my somewhat galaxy brain theory? You want me to run it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of on. Well, this is an entire defensive breakdown. Like it's not.
Oh, I think it's 100% on him. But
well, yeah, it's on Cade, but like also Saban and Killian just kind of it's not great overall as a team defensive possession.
Did you think Gup was in the corner?
No, he's 2-9ing.
Oh.
He just mistimed his 2-9.
Well,
Look,
yeah,
watch,
but that
watch.
still
No,
doesn't-
but he's at 3. Watch. 1,000, 2 1,000, 3, and then he doesn't come back in. He like the second he steps out, he tries to seek up, and when he's looking, that's when Jalen cuts. So like he mistimes his 2-9. Like he should have hopped back out in between the at the first 2-9. He should have stepped a little bit in to reset it. After like 1, should have stepped in because it wasn't a dangerous situation. And then when he looks for Gup, that's when Jalen appears. And that's the best explanation because like look how panicked this backward step is. It's to try to get.
That's what I was trying. I wasn't sure, and I should have counted. Yeah, that's a good. And but also like, am I just like overthinking it, or did he do like even like miss Green even after after he
because
faced?
the second he 2-9s because he's in that panic, he's looking for Jacob, and as he turns his head, that's when Green cuts. So he's maneuvering to find Jacob, and as he's maneuvering to find Jacob, because like right now he's out, right? And he's like, okay, where's Josh?
Yeah.
He sidesteps to find Josh, and now that he's back, he sees that like it's wide open, and he's like, oh yeah, crap. And he has a late rotation, but that's basically
there was
he
a
didn't.
very subtle head turn.
Yep.
Sorry, I heard this.
Oh yeah, you're totally fine. It's just that like that's what I think happened here is a guy adapting to new rules and then also missing rotation and then missing an assignment. So 3 mistakes in 1, and that's why it looks so weird. Really fun though. That's what I'm pretty sure is happening. I timed it out a couple times when I was cutting this, but there's
counting it out seems like I counted it out too in my head, and that seems like a reasonable explanation.
There's no other explanation for that drop step backwards that makes any sense to me. Having watched like hundreds of Cade games at this point, I feel like I've never seen him do anything like that. And
I think you could also make I think I might have an argument for he thought Gups thing through the corner, but the 2-9 is a more reasonable explanation, much more.
Well, if he thought Gup was in the corner, he wouldn't look for him. That's my counter.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Because if he knew Gup was in the corner, he'd be selling out on that corner. And then once you know the corner's out there, then you can fight to the shake for that your top lob. All right.
Yeah, you seem to. Oh, wait, no, one more thing. He seemed to put his left hand down, trying to take away that kind of like a mini hammer pass from Sengun, but maybe that was just his arm moving.
Yeah. And that's why rule changes are really fun to watch people internalize them. Which you can also see every time high school players play on a court with NBA lines. They immediately shoot NBA threes because it's the first line they see. That's why high school championship games are often slogfests, is because people take 30-footers not knowing. All right. Overall impressions of Cade from Summer League. Things that y'all wanted to talk about, wanted to cover.
I will say he wasn't as bad as people say, but he was also, again, I might be projecting a little bit, sounded like a guy who was the almost consensus number 1 pick, who's spent his pre-draft portion, assuming that correctly.
Yeah, I don't think he played basketball in a minute. I think he got some cleanup stuff and it seemed.
Yeah. I don't want to say that like that's kind of what I was more referencing. It was more body maintenance and everything like that, rather than getting in workouts and all that kind of stuff. I'm obviously not trying to say like he didn't do basketball shit. Yeah, he did. But yeah, that was kind of the thing. And so other people may have had a little bit deeper development, but just because he was kind of working on some other stuff, maybe that's probably something that'll happen either now or next off season. That's not. But the special was still there. He'll learn to adjust to NBA competition more as he gets more game reps under him. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting how as the shot has come along, it's gone from being a weakness to like one of his big calling cards. I think it's interesting how he's adjusted other aspects of his game, playing a little different because he knows he now has a shot in his back pocket. I mean, I don't know how that'll develop. I just think it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on when you think about where he could be in a couple years from now. And yeah, I think that his summer league performance kind of showed some more of his weaknesses, but he was still pretty good anyway, which probably speaks volumes about the level of prospect he is. Yeah, no extreme takeaways from this really.
Mark?
Again, more of a rudimentary take for me, but I was just consistently impressed with, again, he only played 3 games, but the level of defensive intensity that he came out with was kind of insane. Like, he actually, like, to me, he's the kind of guy where if he wasn't the number 1 overall pick, like, I'm sure he's getting chewed out. Like, dude, why are you playing so hard this summer league? Like he reminds me of the dude in, football practice, first day of 2-a-days is getting, chewed out by a senior on the team for going too hard. Like, he was like, just like, I mean, it's the best perimeter defense I've seen out of a lottery pick in summer league in a while. So that was really impressive to me. And it definitely shows some interesting aspects of his game that I think got a little bit overly analyzed headed into the draft by some people. But I mean, I think the only other thing that stood out to me in less of a negative sense, but more like, I'm really interested to see how it plays out moving forward. Like we've talked about the weight a little bit. We didn't talk about as much with the rim finishing and some of the shying away from contact. And that's something I really want to see play out this year in Detroit. But yeah, I mean, overall, he was clearly the best player at Summer League to me, without question.
Yeah, to me, the thing that stands out is just the need for flexibility. The finishing is always been just like needing more options, needing the ability to go to different stuff and respond, to what's happening in air. What the issue to me isn't even that he shies away from contact. It's when he goes to shy away from contact, he just doesn't have like good options. They all feel like compromises. It doesn't feel like he's like, oh, I'm shying away from contact. And like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander also shies away from contact. He does it with like late Euro steps, and people aren't like, oh yeah, I wish Shea would finish better. It's like, no, he's found solutions. He obviously doesn't love going just to people because he's not built to handle that at an NBA level. Well, not previously. Though he apparently has gained like 10 pounds of muscle this summer, but that's something I'm very interested to see. I mean, it was really cool to see him and Evan Mobley both like expect perfect defensive rotations out of teammates, and like both had some frustrations when just like rotations wouldn't happen or the miscommunications would occur. It's really cool to see young guys who like process defense that way and really want to like have like a systematized way of thinking about it in the summer league, where like I think fans and people who cover the game and even coaches are just like, I don't know what you expect. Like, you guys have to adjust your expectations because we got 2 practices and these guys have hung out for 3 hours. We watched film. We installed some offense. We just want to look cohesive or whatever. But it's just not possible to build a defense in that time. And Cade is just like expecting like, no, be at the nail every single time. When he's here, you're here. When I'm, we're all on a string. Let's get this done. And it's just like, yeah, that's going to be successful in the league. It's just a matter of getting the other stuff developed. So for a guy who I did not think was going to pop in summer league, there were a lot of positives. I think that there's still very clear stuff to work on, but this is exactly what I expected from him. And it's also just fun to see him. We have a very grudgy class, and I like that. They all seem to be very motivated by slights, big or small, and are very excited to take them out on people. All right, everybody want to hit our plugs, and we can get on out of here. I'm not going to do Q&A today. Had a lot of effort, and JoJo's getting a little bit wired up. So I'll go first and plug Lucas's stuff. You can find him on Twitter at Lucas_Kaplan. And you'll also find his tweets and writing about the Nets there. Awesome stuff. And I want to thank him so much for talking about scoring virtuoso Cam Thomas. Who's up next?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at mschindlernba.
Obviously.
Jesus, I'm never gonna escape that. My girlfriend's already texted me about that like 15 times. Yeah, no, thank you a ton for having me on, PD. It's always a pleasure. I'm just happy to be here, man. Well, we're still putting the work in. I did not mean it in that way, but yeah, this was an absolute blast.
You can find me at on Twitter at the NBA Underground. I kind of ran out of spaces, so it's UNDRGRND. I have my website of the same name, the NBA Underground. And yeah, thanks a ton for having me on. It was a lot of fun, and we had some great conversations here.
Yeah, as everyone else said, thank you again, PD, for setting this up, allowing us to talk hoops, which is always a great thing to do. You can follow me on Twitter at Aneesh Namburi, and then you can also follow at _Pro Insight. We do, it's the company I do work for. We do great stuff when it comes to high school and college scouting, intel, media, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, thank you guys for leading this one. You know, we had a great group, and this was a ton of fun. You know, this is another, like, I don't plan the group, you know, in terms of guys we cover at the, you know, the or even like, you know, who's on it, and fortuitously it's come together every single time. A great mix, and thank you guys so much. You can follow me on Twitter at Above the Break 3. You can read my writing on Patreon. There's a link to it in my Twitter profile. Started 2022. If the work is always free, but if you can swing a couple bucks to help pay for the stats and video packages, and along with, you know, the equipment to set these streams up, it'd be much appreciated. Yeah, I've been doing work for a company called Cerebro Sports, who